Well, hello everybody. How's it going? Hope you all had a good weekend. It was an interesting weekend. Watched the original Star Wars movies, and then I took notes on them. It was an interesting experience, going through trying to see what the movies told us about the era before them. And I took 3.5 pages of them. Yeah, I turned my camera around. Basically, for the game, I don't care if you guys can see what's behind me correctly, but on the ones where I'm talking, I wanted you guys to have the things not mirrored. It was mostly just done so because when I'm playing the game, I'm like this. And I look up at you to see. So I'm kind of looking at you when I'm looking at chat. So I actually made a couple changes today. Somebody threw away a boom mic stand. So I no longer have the microphone hanging from up here off of a boom arm. It's anchored to a piece of wood that's anchored to the wall. I now have an actual boom stand. Eventually I will get the right adapter for the camera, because it's currently sitting on a tripod fairly high above this vertical monitor right here. Once I get the right end for this thing, I'll be able to put the webcam on here, and then this will be mounted to, I have a shelf above my monitor. It'll be mounted to that, and I'll no longer have to set the camera on. Yeah. Well, and I can move it. I have a little more freedom to move it. Right now I have it pulled back because I'm talking. So I want to be able to step back from the thing and kind of be looking up at you guys when I'm talking. Once the camera's up there, I'll no longer have to put that tripod right there, which drives my wife crazy when she comes. She tries to turn the monitor and it just knocks the camera over. So I'm constantly moving the camera back and forth throughout the week. So, Jen, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. It is Monday, and that means I have a co-host. So let's go ahead and bring him in here. Everyone say hello, Chalice Mike.
Hello, Chalice Mike. Hello, everybody. Hello, Jen. Hello, chat translator.
Chat translator. Yeah, it's there. It's actually been there for a little bit, but it's made by InstaFluff.
Okay. Just need somebody to say something like, hold on.
If you can type in a different language, and chat translator will tell you what, if it can, it'll tell you what it said, and it will tell you what language it said. So if you type, apparently, what is it? I think it's this. That thinks it's, no, it didn't get it that one. But someone was typing something in my Wednesday night streams. They typed it in, and the chat translator for some reason thought that it was Filipino for something else. I can't remember what it is now, though. It's very odd.
So I guess any language, but maybe or maybe not, it'll catch it.
Cool. It'll catch most of them. He's had that thing going for a while, and has been working with viewers. I don't know if you. I'm gonna give him a shout out. I have one other thing to tell everybody in a second. InstaFluff. InstaFluff. He does coding on stream.
Okay, I've been talking a little bit with him. Haven't been playing with him. He's been playing with another friend.
Yep, I've been a supporter of his stream for 2 years now, and he has come over and hung out in mine a lot. and
I'm
he
surprised it's not been longer.
I discovered him in 2017. So around the same time I discovered MS, and a little, like 6 months after that, Bonsai Baby. And the reason why I mention these people is because I've joined their stream team.
Wait, is Insta Fluff not Fluffy?
That's Fluffy.
Fluffy Corner.
Who? What?
The Fluffy Corner.
That's the. I'm confused.
Okay, never mind. I'll ask that off stream.
Okay. I need to make sure that Discord is. Yeah, it is. Let me turn my background music. This is my writing music. So I want to make sure that people can hear you over the music. But Fluffy does a lot of coding on stream, and a lot of the things that he's developed are basically available for people to use. Chat Translator is a Twitch extension. Clippy Raid is a Twitch extension. Got a couple others that are out there, Twitch extensions, but he also, I'll put it up here for just a second. Oh, I pushed the wrong one. That one. The game that's on the Be Right Back screen, the Triwizard Tournament, that's his. He coded that on stream with another streamer.
Very nice.
Hey Nixie, also hi Jackson, I saw you. Let me turn that off.
Guys, gals, everybody.
So, welcome on in. And Nixie, I'm sorry I wasn't able to join you last night, but Nixumia is a brand new streamer. And let's not forget Jacksonator. I always forget, is there a number on the end of yours? Yep, it's always there. Well, she is brand...
You're going somewhere where I dare not go.
Brand new. She did her first stream a week ago Friday. So, and I made sure I was there in support, so that someday when she's the new, most followed, most viewed streamer, I was there at the beginning. Yep, he is. Oh, and look at that. We got another streamer in the house. Lurch. Lurch is a former coworker of ours. We used to work together, man, that's kind of 12 years ago is when we started, roughly. 13 years ago.
Let's see, what is it? It is September 2029?
2019, so yeah, that's October of 06 is when I finally made it in the room with you guys, but I didn't cross over to where the side of the room where you guys were until October of 7.
He and I lived on the same floor back since March of 2004.
A long time.
That is a long time.
So I think if I switch this now, there we go. So I've changed around our talk show thing a little bit, so we have a browser on there. So I just wanted to show that, but I kind of breezed past this because I was so many people. I wanted to say hi to them all these great content makers. But there is one other thing that I want to highlight, or I can't figure out where it is. If you're not watching me in full screen, if you look below, you'll see there's a team that I'm a part of, Super Funiverse. Now this is separate from the Extra Life thing because there's a very specific Extra Life ambassador team, and that is a select group of people who've been with Extra Life for a long time. So
that is the Friday stream.
That's the Friday stream. Yep. Hopefully this won't mess with my bot if I put this in there. Yep, it did. For some reason, that command triggers things. I'm not ending. But yeah, on Fridays I stream there, but the rest of the time I'm part of this team. They just invited me to join. It's a family-friendly team with a lot of...
Is this not the FK community?
No, I decided to step away from that. Just cause it wasn't quite what...
Yeah.
We're old. Yeah, we are, people. We are old. I'm in my 5th decade. 5th decade. And you see all this? You see all this gray right here? See all this gray right here? Okay, so this side right here was... We'll see when you get back. This side right here was when we tried to adopt that teenager. That turned gray.
I remember.
And then the rest of this, all right here, came in a very specific period from mid 2016 to mid 2017. Basically, when I was fighting to get out of the Air Force.
Yeah.
So yep, I'm in my 5th decade. So, yep. Yeah, you never get old. You just get more seasoned. Right? See, that's what this is. It's the salt and pepper.
See, I don't have to worry about gray hairs because I just have no hair.
Well,
Although,
there's advantages to that.
okay, never mind. I was going to ask if body hair goes gray, but
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
just weird.
Ew. That's the response.
Ew.
Okay.
Right.
So today, as you can see by the stuff behind me, I've actually been editing, although I haven't gotten as much editing done as I wish I've managed so far. But that's okay. I still have the rest of the day. Mondays and Fridays are my guaranteed creative days.
And I have an interview today.
Oh yes, yes. So with the accomplishment that Cellist Mike made of getting of not only submitting an application for a job, part-time job that he'll do, well, it could be more than part-time, but a job that he'll do from home. Decided that we should, and then he not only did that, but he scheduled his appointment. So big steps, big congratulations on that. So I decided the topic today should be how do we, what are the things that we do, considering the struggles that we face. What are the things that we do to set ourselves up for success?
Yes, because everybody with mental health concerns or not, everybody in life has to take their own success into their own hands.
Yes, Jen, very much so. How do we life? But so I'm going to say a term here that most people would automatically think is a negative because of work experiences, and that term is micromanage. I don't think there's anybody who likes being micromanaged by another person. But
the point of it is it takes every little thing that you do to affect outcomes.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes one of the problems that I've faced, let's say it's not as strong as it is now, but part of that's because I set up these things that we're going to talk about and we've talked about before. But there are times when I just can't function because I can't make myself do the things that I do. Sometimes just because I don't think about them, I don't remember them. There are phone calls that I still need to make that I've known for 2 weeks that I need to make to schedule appointments, and I just keep forgetting to do them. Not because I'm trying. I know I need to do it, but there's just so many other things going on that all of those, and we're going to be talking about some of the basic things, but all of those things just vanish because you're just not aware of them anymore. So, oh, sorry, I had a notification. Phone calls. Well, see, at this point, I rarely ever answer my phone. If you're not an identified caller on my phone, I'm not answering it. I just push decline. I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with people who I don't know. If you want me,
Yeah.
Well, see, my family doesn't call me. They all message me on Facebook.
The ones who know.
Yes, Lurch, that's true. It does. It just starts dumping itself. And when you're dealing with the stressors of a mental disorder and the getting stuck in that, which is kind of what happens with PTSD. You face trauma and then your brain gets stuck there with dealing with the issues of that. That's when it becomes something like PTSD, where it stays longer. And just managing the fear, the overwhelming sense of defeat that you're facing, and there's just so many different feelings I could go into. All the things that you're thinking about, the pressures, all that stuff, it just becomes impossible to focus. And I think Charles Mike can speak to that.
Yeah, it turns even the most well-intentioned people into super narcissists.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, we're going to bring this screen back over here. Now, this infographic that I found is just a conversation starter. I don't know if I sent it to you, Cellist Mike. Let me give you the direct link so you have it.
All right.
I'll send it to you in Discord. Because why not?
Sure, that's what it's there for, right?
Yep. And we are gonna switch over to Minecraft here in a bit, but for now we're doing some talk right now. Today is about keeping it as light and as positive as we can, because
I have an interview right afterwards.
Yeah, an hour after we finish, he has an interview.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, no, this I just sent you the link. So it's really just an infographic about things that you can do to automate your life. It's not extremely complicated.
No.
You have a lot of work to do. I will do my best not to make you cry. I will do my best. We never want people to cry, but we want people to feel safe here. That's why we have this command in there for you guys to learn about. You can go there and you can understand what it means to, particularly for people who don't struggle with a mental disorder. Understanding the people around you that do is going to go a long way. Hi, Nixie. Welcome back.
Howdy.
Good. I'm glad, Jen. I'm glad. So, as the title says, we're talking about micromanaging success. And this, I think a lot of us try to do this. We do things in patterns to help us succeed. For example, for years now.
Habituation.
Yes, exactly. Forming good habits, to break bad habits. I do not do well getting ready in the morning because I don't like being up. So for years, my habit has been the night before, I set up everything that I need. So it's already ready. So when I get up and I'm operating in that haze of I don't want to be up, but I have to be up, I got to do the things I know I need to do. Everything that I need as I progress from bed to bathroom to kitchen to out the door is exactly where I need it to be, and it's always in the same place. And if some of that stuff vanishes, it completely derails me. And I mean, I've never had a really good sense of time, and it's just gotten worse. So yeah, you can ask. Anytime we move someplace, the first thing I do is I try to set up we have a launch pad where we have it's a 3 square rack. It's a wire shelf with hooks underneath it, and I have a hook for the dog, so the dog's go bag is always ready. I just have to grab it when we go out the door, and all the miscellaneous things for the dog, the car harness, his collar, the Star Mark collar, all that stuff is right there where I can grab it. My wallet is sitting right next to his leash, so I can't walk out the door with that, and my keys are hanging right next to all of that. So that's just at the door. My shoes are there, and I even have a bag for myself that sometimes I use, and it's sitting there empty. My computer. This one drives me bonkers because I try to set things, even though it looks chaotic, I try to set things where I know they are. And if somebody else comes along and is looking for something, I'm done for. Even setting my phone in the exact same place so that when I wake up, I know precisely out of habit where to hit so it doesn't wake my wife up, although now she wakes up before me. I even had to do that. I needed it to be in the exact same spot because if it wasn't, I would miss it and then it would just disrupt.
People will find, so like I said before, people will find that these sorts of things apply for everybody.
Yes. Now, we're talking... in this context, we're just talking about the amped up difficulty that we face with the it's not just you wake up and I don't sleep anymore. I never sleep. Not all the way through the night. I cannot remember the last time I slept all the way through the night. I think it was the night after I flew back from Germany. So I was on jet lag. Because when we fly back, it's an 8-hour flight, and I keep myself awake. I don't go to sleep because they fly you overnight. And going there, it's the same thing. They fly you overnight. So you're getting there in the morning, and I just keep myself awake until I absolutely have to go to sleep. It's usually 2 hours before I normally go to sleep. And then that's the only time that I can remember recently sleeping. That's it. Most of the time, I am up after 2 hours. There's just nothing I can do about it. So I always wake up, and it's a combination of the physical damage to my body from all the time I spent doing unhealthy sit-ups. My lower back is basically destroyed because the Air Force forced me to do unhealthy sit-ups in a training environment for 2 years. They wouldn't let me change them. So I was grinding my lower back into the ground, and they wouldn't let us use mats. Sometimes we would be on grass, so that would be a little better, but so for doing that for 2 years, at an age that was 8 years 8 years older than the average start age for people enlisting. So I wasn't young, but they treated me like that.
Yeah.
Very difficult to get in the morning, Nixie. Yeah. Yeah, to feel prepared. Yeah, it sets you up for success if you put the things where they are, so you can get out the door without any maybe a slight delay because you just kind of got a little distracted while you were eating or something, or you were looking at your phone while you were eating or something. Those things that's different, but the getting out the door without having lost anything, having everything that you needed ready, and you get out the door on time, that is such a huge boon for your day. So you don't show up at work already late. Now, I don't leave for work anymore, but sometimes I still have a hard time in the morning getting myself started. 2 hours later, when you realize you're awake. Yes. In my former life, my coworkers tried to avoid talking to me until after about 10 a.m.
Right.
Because from about 10 a.m. until the end of work, that was when I was awake, and that was when I'd start getting my best work done. There's something about the end of the day, knowing that you're gonna leave soon, but still, I just want just a little bit more. That amps me up, and I get going. Oh yeah. I do that too, Jen. I figure out the absolute last possible time that I can sleep and get up and still get out the door on time.
Yep.
I even do it now with my daughter. I have my alarm set, and I don't have to worry about waking my wife up now. I have two staggered alarms, so that when they go off, I'll wake up enough to register that it's time to get up is coming.
Your brain is dumping out.
Yes. So I can, honestly, so I can get myself free of whatever mess my brain was feeding to me.
Nightmare time to be done.
You've said, yeah, my sister would never talk to me growing up, and we got to the point where we just wouldn't talk. We tried to avoid talking to each other at all. We had a very rough relationship growing up.
Isn't that what siblings are for?
Maybe.
You learn how to deal with poor relationships.
See, the issue that I have is that I don't like being talked to when I'm trying to settle down or when I'm just waking up. And after the trauma happened, I stopped being able to process sensory input as effectively. So now I spend most of the day on my own, and then they come home. My wife and my daughter come home. I'm very happy that they're home, but it's an instantaneous overload of sensory input. Now my wife is nice. She will send text messages to warn me she's coming, so that when she comes in the door, I'm not surprised. Because sometimes if I'm doing my audio work, I got my hands like this. I've got noise-canceling headphones on. I'm really digging in, trying to figure out what this knucklehead is saying over top of the other knucklehead, won't stop talking. And then somebody touches me on my shoulder, and that's it. I'm done. I'm triggered. I can't get any work done. That has happened to me so many times. Now, the dog has helped that, because the dog cannot not react to someone coming in the door. Yeah, visiting family is always difficult. So, Chalice Mike, tell me what it's like for you, bedtime, getting up, things like that.
They are absolutely non-functional.
Absolutely non-functional.
Absolutely non-functional. The only things that exist during bedtime routine are, so taking pills, making sure I have clean clothes for the next day. I don't necessarily have to send them out. They just have to be around.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's okay. I'm listening.
Really, it's making sure I take my meds in time to be able to fall asleep. If I know that I have, so here comes the thought where it's managing or micromanaging for success. If I have things to do the next day versus do I not have things to do the next day. If I have things to do, then I'll make sure and not consume any media, video games, books, TV, movies that are mentally stimulating. So generally that means real life stories.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, if it's fiction, I can deal with it. If it's nonfiction, I don't know if there exists a nonfiction story, a real person's life that isn't triggering, isn't mentally not damaging, but will prevent you from sleeping. Because that's just the nature of life.
Yeah, I have to disconnect from reality very quickly.
Yep.
I just can't deal with certain parts of it.
The morning, I'm the stereotypical. I need caffeine. Don't talk to me. I mean, people can try to talk to me. I don't get angry, but there's going to be no responses. There's going to be just nothing there. Let's see. Brushing teeth helps me feel more awake, more alert. Really, I guess one of the examples I would say is, in terms of things to do, is, let's say I have to go grocery shopping. We're not even talking about going to work here. We're talking about going grocery shopping, making sure I have food.
Hey, so
I have
showering becomes a thing of holy crap. I can't even remember. Did I shower? Did I not shower?
It has to be intentional. Every little step to prepare in the morning, if I have to go grocery shopping that day, it's every little step is intentional. And we've talked about this before, but it's make sure that my alarms are set because there's 3 alarms that I have to wake me up in the morning, and they have to, as I start getting sleepy in the evening, I have to set them to make sure that they start going off in a time frame that matches my REM sleep cycle, or else I'll sleep through the alarms. So it starts, as I start getting sleepy, changing the alarm from the default, whatever time it is, to a very specific tailored, I'm sleepy now, so set the alarm to this time.
Yeah.
And then I have to wake up. I have to actually sit up and kind of take a few moments in bed, wake up, and then I have to follow get coffee, get a protein, not just get whatever breakfast food I want to eat, but it has to have like eggs or some sort of meat, or even something like beans. I really enjoy black beans, so I'll have
people underestimate the importance of getting a good breakfast. It's not just getting food in you, especially if you have something like ADD, ADHD. Protein is crucial to making sure that you can manage the symptoms throughout the day. Not even with medicine, protein can still help so much. So you were talking about the alarms you were setting. So one of the things that I did to help micromanage myself was I got a device. Yes, Nixie, imagine that. And fruit smoothies, Lurch, when I was in my previous life, I would make those. I would have, you can ask Chalice Mike, I used to bring them to work when we worked in DOT together. I had a big cup, like that big. That was all smoothie, and that was my quick little protein hit at home, and then lunchtime, that was something I consumed a lot. It was also helpful when I was running marathons, which was happening a lot.
I will say, we are not a source for mental health information other than, say, phone numbers.
Yep. We can point you to the right people.
You may hear something that we say or we found works for us and be like, oh, that might work. And if it works for you, great. But we are not saying do this because it works for you.
Well, I will say the idea of the protein, that actually my wife picked that up from a professional source.
Oh, okay.
So that one is, and I can always tell the difference between when I haven't started off with a good protein, some source of protein. Oatmeal is also a source of protein, a good source of protein, versus when I haven't. It really does cut into that fog, and you just don't realize until you start to get into your day. And it doesn't make me suddenly more awake. It just makes it so that when I'm awake,
you wake up, it lasts.
The concentration really kicks in. So That's Nixie. That's where that one. Okay. Sugar. Yeah, sugar and fat are they're carbohydrates. You're going to consume them quickly. So if you're going to eat a cereal, eat something with protein in it. My daughter doesn't know what candied cereals taste like because she's had nothing but healthy cereals her entire life.
I know what candy cereals taste like.
And Nixie, I think there's a quick and easy thing you can do every morning to get him some protein. Poach an egg. It takes just minutes to poach an egg, and then suddenly he's got protein.
I do the egg in a basket where I hollow out a piece of bread and just fry the egg in the bread.
Yep, it's another one. So I've mentioned it before. I took full advantage of the fact that we got a device, and that device I immediately started setting things in to remind me to do simple tasks. My list of tasks that device tells me throughout the day, and we have multiples. So there's the main one, and then there's one in our room that shares some of the ones with us that duplicates them, so that we get some back there that we need to have. And then there's one in Zoe's room that manages her, so some of hers appear on there. And I have it set so that I can make an announcement, and it will go to all the devices.
Ooh.
So if Zoe's taking a bit of time, like she hates it when I do this, but I'll turn on the Bluetooth speaker to hers and set it in the bathroom when she's taking a shower, and I'll just I'll just put in an announcement. Hey, you've been in there 5 minutes. Is your hair washed? Hey, you've been in there 10 minutes. Have you finished washing everything else? She hates it when I do that. But I have it telling me when to take the dog out on a schedule. If I didn't do that, he would eventually tell me that he needs to go, but it helps me remember to break my days up. At work, I used to have people who would go out on smoke breaks, or they were leaving for something or coming in from something. So there was this constant reminder of, hey, there's a world outside this room. Get up and go.
Yes, you used to go out on breaks with me.
Yeah, when we worked together in Georgia, whenever you went out to the smoke pit, I would go out there and stand upwind of all of you. Just because it was an excuse to get out. It was the middle of the night, but it was an excuse to get out.
Yeah.
If there are days when if that didn't happen, there are a lot of people who could say that, Lurch. There are days when if that device didn't tell me to do that for the dog, I would never leave the apartment. It would just never happen. I would just be in here all day, tied to this computer, working on something that's productive that needs to get done, or doing stuff around the house. But you need to be outside now. During the summer, I've tried to avoid being outside during the day because it's just disgusting hot out there.
Seasonal affective disorder during the summer.
Well, yes, okay, but qualification, SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is usually what happens when you're in an environment that has very little sunlight. So it screws up your circadian rhythm. Night shift. Working a night shift will do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So the device will tell me when to take the dog out. It reminds me to take my morning medicine. And then there's a second reminder, like an hour and a half after the first one, to tell me, hey, if you forgot to take your medicine, take it now. Because sometimes I'll just I'll get it in a second, and then I just forget.
Yeah, that's a thing.
There's a reminder that goes off to get ready for my extra live stream because I forget that I have to switch things around. There's
prep time.
Yeah, there is a reminder in there to when to shower, when to wash the dog. It's another step that I just won't think. I won't think about it. It used to be a lot worse. I had to have a lot of things in there reminding me to brush my teeth, reminding me to take a shower, reminding me to do, and I'm actually going to add this one back in, a reminder in there once I work out my schedule of, hey, stop doing the work side of your life here and now do a chore, the chore you have planned for today. Yeah, Lurch, you're right. Normal sleep. I'm kind of getting into a pattern of a consistent time that I'm in bed, but I don't sleep. I don't even wake up consistently at the same times. Yeah, and Nixie, winter will do that because of the lack of sunlight. Being out in the sun is very important. One of the things that I did when we were to manage myself in the previous environment that we were in, I got a sun station. And I would sit when we get to work, within the first hour of me being there, I would sit under that thing. And everyone thought I was absolutely crazy doing that until they started sitting under it, and then it would just get passed around the room.
Oh, people hated that, and that's so. The people that disliked you having that made no sense to me. I'm like,
yeah, I'm making myself more productive. It's helping me wake up sooner. Stop being, as my wife would say to her cat, stop being poo-poo heads. They are great. They are great. If my wife was still, before she started getting the job she has now, so she's actually out and about, she would sit under the sun station every morning, and it came to a thing where it was Zoe would sit with her when they were getting ready, and the cats would sit under it with her, and there was bask under that thing, even though it wasn't creating heat. It created the light would be above them. We actually had it hanging in our previous apartment, and it would just shine the light down across their eyes. And that's what I would do at work. I had a stand for it, similar to this boom stand. And I would just set it right over top of my head and shine it straight down. And people would complain, "Oh, it's so bright! Oh, it's so bright!" And then the people sitting next to me would notice, "Wait a minute, I actually feel a little more awake. I feel better." And so then the thing would just get moved around the room. So that was something I did to help manage the lack of vitamin D coming from the sun, Lurch, but not everyone had access to that. We actually have two. We had one for me to use at work and one one for at home. Yes, and feel free. Always dark. Well, yeah, and that's part of the reason, Lurch, why the people didn't like it. They wanted to be in a dark environment, and they really hated it when there was office types, as the day walkers, as they would call them, who would come in and turn all the lights on because they were there and it was time to work, and we were at the end of our day, and those lights suddenly made our eyes hurt.
That's actually, for me, it was the eyes hurt. I always preferred working in the dark.
Yeah, I prefer it too, but it's not good for streaming.
Yeah, later after Afghanistan, and I'm not sure if it was something to do with the medication or what, but after Afghanistan, I started preferring working in the light.
Yeah. That was the biggest complaint was when how bright it was compared to the darkness that they were working in. Another thing that I did, I would get, those visors that you get to block your eyes after you've been dilated, until I got a proper pair of sunglasses that would block 100%, and I would wear a cap down over it to block the sun. I would use one of those to keep my eyes from getting too charged, so that when I got home, I could go to sleep. Vitamin D, taking people who have a vitamin D deficiency, especially, and you can get that tested. And unfortunately, the Air Force screwed up when they tried to do mine. They thought I had a vitamin D deficiency, and instead, the medicine that the VA had told me to take was screwing up my something in here. I can't remember what it was.
Your body stores or produces it,
and I now have to take. What is this for? Levothyroxine. It's to manage one of my glands that the SSRI was messing up. Especially if you work in a place where if you work at night, it's really hard to get that, because going outside during the day wakes you up. Yeah, they do test it. It is an annual thing they test. You are right.
Ooh, I just thought of another micromanagement of your daily life in order to. You said succeed, but the idea is to set yourself up, and you're right. It is about functioning, because it is a lot more difficult to function when you have a mental disorder, because your brain is working against you. Anybody that you ever work for, or I would extend that to interpersonal relationships of any kind, whether it's friendships, whether it's romantic engagements, whether it's but specifically in this case, I think is very important with employers. And this doesn't change if it's a current employer, doesn't change if it's a past employer. As much as we absolutely hate sharing our crap, you have to keep them in the loop. Not because they
Not because it's
deserve
any
it,
of their business,
not
but
because it's any of their business, but because human nature will generally mean that they'll be more willing to adapt to you.
they can't adapt to help you succeed if they don't know that you need that.
And just telling them that you need it sometimes can't be enough.
Yeah.
Because
they need the
whatever
official
reason,
diagnosis.
Yeah, and specifics of this is what it's going to look like. And even when you first start a job, saying, hey, these are some of the problems that I have, and this is what it's going to look like here. You know, it might be, I will sleep through alarms because sometimes I can't sleep. Or it might be, there's going to be times where I may just have to leave, you know, take a break, and I won't have the mental wherewithal to tell anybody. I'm just going to step away for a little bit. Things that if you expect it might happen, tell them up front.
Yeah. They can't help you. They can't help you. They can't help you succeed at what you're doing if they don't know. Now, unfortunately, there are employers out there who won't care. But this is why there are laws to help with that.
Yeah.
One of the considerations that I now have to make if I were to seek employment outside the home is I have to decide. I have two factors I have to take into consideration. One, I'm a member of the reserves, so there are times when I'm just going to have to leave, and I have no say over it. And then I also have a service dog, and specifically in the state of Texas, they've had to pass some laws to protect people who have service dogs, because employers, once they find out, will come up with some excuse, usually something on your resume or something they'll go dig something up wherever they can find it to not hire you, because they don't want to have to deal with a service dog in their work environment, because it does require them to adapt. It's not right that happens, but it does.
And of course, there's going to be those issues where, you know, people are just going to be butt heads, and you can't do anything to help with it. But
you can only manage you. You really can only
there are
control
also
you.
People that will help and be more understanding.
Right. It's not even the dog per se. It's that once they find out you have a disability of some kind. I know that has prevented me from getting work, not just because I've been unable to get myself to go to it, to apply for it, because at this point I'm just convinced that I will fail, even though I have this is part of the reason why this is here, this wall of my success, because it's a daily reminder. And I think it's why my wife lets me keep it there. It's a daily reminder of success. Just think about the time investment in this right here. I'm going to look away, so I'm looking at this. This is representative. There's one missing. And there's going to be another one here on the end, so I'll have to rearrange them. This is representative of 8 years of dedication to one single cause every year, and through a lot of the years, it's an all-year thing. If I could clear my second goal this year, which you can see down below right there, and I saw your example last week was really cool. I shared it with my wife Jen, and she was very impressed. But this is almost $8,000 worth of charity. That's what that represents. These right here along the bottom. Hey, the first one here, and then the next two, those were full marathons. That required 6 months of training in advance, 3 days a week, so much food, and other exercise for 6 months for each one. So it's a good, healthy reminder for me. People like to put the awards they've won. The only thing I have sitting up above me right now is all the stuff I got as a volunteer. The team stuff, the other official stuff, is hiding behind all that. And honestly, because I don't have a place to put them. I think the only other thing that I got from my previous life that is technically on display is the real crystal eagle that I got as a Levito winner.
Really?
Yeah. So that one's over there on our with some of our other more I'm gonna say more valuable. Just they're intrinsically more valuable, but in terms of their actual value, they're not worth anything. But
Yeah.
I mean, somebody went to a lot of trouble to make that crystal eagle, and it's an actual crystal eagle. So, and it's representative of when I was able to stick it to the man and win an award that most people thought I should never have won, because I'm not what the Air Force would have called a great team player.
Yeah, whatever.
So, and honestly, in the last assignment I had, when people realized I'd won that, they really would question, like, how did you do that? What on earth did you do? I'm not going to tell you, because I don't have to defend it. I don't have to justify it. But the teachers at that school and my peers all chose me. And it is, Nixie, it is great, because if it's not tangible right there in front of you, something you can see, it's hard to hang on to it.
Mind. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In therapy.
Exactly, Guthrum. Or MS. And actually, thank you, bot. That's another reminder right there. I don't have it sitting right here. Hold on. No one can take that away from me. That's 20 years of my life to make that. 20 years. How you doing on that read-through, Nixie? But 20 years.
Audible.
And this
Audible helps.
Yeah, Audible also. And this is my copy. Okay, this is my copy. This is the one that's marked number 1. And it has on the front, it has my autograph. It has the autograph of the guy who did the front blurb. And then there's on the back the 3 authors who did blurbs on the back. They've each autographed it. And then on the inside, on the
artist,
the production page, the copyright page, the editor who also edited Fall, and the artist who did the cover work, they've autographed it. Eventually I'm going to get it to my publisher and have the publicist who worked with me and to sign it, so I have them on there too. But this is my copy of, and I had everybody who took a part in it sign it for me. So, and I'm going to do the same.
That's a really great example of you are a team player.
And this one right here was a double-edged sword, because I could see this sitting on my shelf, and it would be almost mocking me, like, you did this, but you haven't made any progress on your other one. That was something I was really struggling with.
That's one of the things that my therapist and I would talk about is he would always bring up past successes, and then I would reframe them as current failures.
Or and a lot of the previous, the MS, the second one was, I finished writing it in January of 2016, so right before all the stuff started hitting the fan. Rise wasn't published until September of 2016. I finished writing the sequel and a third of the third book before Rise was ever published.
But then you come into things like editing.
Yeah, and editing is technically easier than the writing side of it, but not when you're struggling to keep a hold of your wits, to keep your mental discipline in place, because everything is, I mean, my life went to pot in 2016.
Yeah.
It just straight up went to pot. And Jen, I'm not sure if Charles Mike was saying that to you when you said that, but it's on, you can get it on Amazon.
Audible.
You can also get it on Audible. So you can find out more of
really
those sites that were shared up there.
Yeah. Whatever a person's preference for consuming books is.
And Nixie is currently consuming the physical copy.
Okay.
And by consuming, I don't mean she's eating it. That would be a weird thing to do.
I have this attachment to physical books,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't read anymore. I can't sit down and read. There's just, my mind wanders too much to places that it shouldn't be wandering, and so I've found that the audiobooks, I'll still buy physical books if I like them, but if the audiobooks,
Keep talking, I gotta grab something.
it helps actually consume the media that I used to love so much. And I don't know. Otherwise, I think I just wouldn't. I guess I don't read. No, I read news. I read current events. I read stuff that is not happy and not fun and not pleasant.
See, I kind of try to avoid all of that. I just don't want to deal with it because it's like some of the things that people would mention that you did in your past. They are constant reminders of things that I don't want to think about. And even now, when I hear some news stories, I know enough from my previous life to know that there is a lot more to the story than what's being said, and it ticks me off and it frustrates me because sometimes my brain wants to find the solution, and I know that it will never happen because there's too much red tape in the way.
Oh, see, for me, it's not that I don't get anxiety attacks from it, but it's less a reminder of what I used to be part of, and a feeling of still being part of it. I'm able to detach from it and see it as I'm not part of it anymore.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for some of the things that are of interest to our family now, I can't separate from it.
You can't separate. No, you do too much.
Yep.
Support work and have support work around you. Well, you had to stop that.
Jen, you can get it from any. That's why I no longer put the link to the Tiny CC link in that author post that the bot does. It takes you to my page, which can still direct you to that, but it can also direct you to the Inkshare site where you can order it from them. But you can go to a bookstore.
Oh yeah.
You can go to a bookstore and order it. At this point, most of the orders that I see are single order from people who are they requested it and the bookstore ordered it. So you can actually go to a Barnes & Noble. It doesn't really matter if you go to, because then that's the nice thing about my publisher. They distribute through the world's largest book distributor. All you have to do is go in and say, you can still do it. I have friends that have done it. But my book was published when I lived in Germany. People ordered it and had it shipped over there. So, yeah, you can. And I had several friends who were in England do that. So you can definitely make an order and have it. Well, the thing in Germany is you need to get one that's going to be able to get English books. Yeah, RDMac, the ad. Yep. The curse of all of us. Zoe is constantly complaining about the fact that when she goes to watch somebody, she gets ads.
Yeah.
So, but Ingram distributes overseas. So, yeah, you just ask them. But so one of the things, the accomplishments that I got to do, is I got to take, and this is, many of you know I've been to Dragon Con a lot. I didn't go this year just because it just didn't work out. But as a result of all that time going to Dragon Con, I'm currently working on a project that's paying me. That would not. I wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to go to if I hadn't taken the time to go to Dragon Con and invest in that community that's there. And one of the results of that investment was I discovered that one of my all-time favorite authors, if not my all-time favorite author, for me it just depends on when I'm reading what. Between two of them, I've discovered that he goes there and he attended a service that I attended that I helped run. So I kind of created this connection and so I actually can message him now and talk occasionally and talk to him. I don't abuse that. But the author is Timothy Zahn. He's most famous for creating that character, Thrawn. And I gave him a copy of my book and said, look, I know you are very busy and the odds that you will read this anytime soon, slim to none, but that's not the point. I want you to take this home. I want you to put it on your shelf. And anytime you see it, just remember that book exists because you wrote Heir to the Empire and I read it. And this series is fascinating. He is such an amazing author, and he takes a character who is technically on the wrong side of the story and makes you want that character to win. You cannot help but root for it. And this is the third book in his current run, reintroducing this character into canon of Star Wars. The dedication in this book for all who have ever had to consider the cost of doing the right thing. I actually had to go. My wife sent that to me in a text message. I had to go be alone for a while after she sent that because that hit home.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about that last week when we did the values drill. So.
Yeah, the cost of doing the right thing. Lose people, you lose money,
You lose security.
lose security.
I mean, Captain Oz, welcome in. Thank you for that host. You're right. Everyone's the good guy in their own eyes. It's one thing that when going through this marathon of watching Star Wars, you hear it there, even though the dialogue and everything about the prequels is just horrible. But you hear that trying to convince Anakin to come over, that I'm just trying to keep the universe safe. That was what the Emperor tricked him with. I'm just trying to keep it safe. Hey, Captain Oz. I should give you a shout out. Although, Charles Mike, you could do this if you were in chat. So yeah, Captain Oz, I've been enjoying watching your Fallout 4 plays, along with Nixie. The two of you are playing it. I don't want to play it. I mean, I won't play it on stream. It's just not the kind of game I want to play on stream. But I so enjoy watching people play it. That and Fallout 76. Oh, he said hi to you, Charles Mike.
Hey, howdy, Captain Oz. You are playing you and Nixia sounds like are playing games after my own heart. I am a Fallout fanatic.
Well, those two are playing it.
Yeah.
Nixie's gone back to Fallout 76. Apparently, she left it and came back.
Yeah, the only reason why I haven't come back to it is because Blizzard pulled that little rabbit out of their hat.
His old addiction has returned. That was meant to be funny.
No, it is. I have an addicted personality, but I don't let myself get addicted to the most dangerous things. In terms of, I don't, I will never try. I'll never try heroin. I'll never take more painkillers than I absolutely need. So painkillers are not one of those meds that you have to take. Things like antibiotics, you have to take them. But if you get prescribed painkillers, you don't have to take them. So I don't, or very rarely take them.
I hate taking painkillers.
Yeah. So the stuff that I know is super dangerous to get into, I won't let myself get into that position. But things like, things like video games,
things that give you a quick dopamine hit. This is part of the reason why I cut back on my streaming schedule, because it was becoming something that I was hiding in. So I had to. That's why I don't stream every day anymore. And I've dedicated this stream almost entirely to talking about this stuff. And Friday is all about Extra Life. So really, there's only one stream a week where it's all about me just gaming. So, but, I mean, it comes back. That comes back to the problem of keep managing yourself to make sure that you're getting the things done that needs to get done. Fun is one of those things that you have to manage. And I'm not sure if that's a response to something, Jen, or if you're just talking about your experience. In RDMac, it's because think about the movie I'm talking about. George Lucas was not about making intelligent bad guys. He just wanted bad guys to be bad guys so he could give his heroes the chance to win. Just see anything that's by him from the sequels. Okay. If you need to take a break, you take a break. What was it? There were so many things that when you're watching that movie, it's so frustrating. Because you think, why would they do that? So as an example, one quick example, Return of the Jedi, the speeder chase scene, right? The thing that kind of probably inspired the pod racing. after Luke is knocked off of his speeder, the guy who's on the speeder is scot-free. It does not matter if Luke lives or dies. He's free to go to report back to base. But what does he do? He turns around and goes back and tries to shoot him. Oh, but Luke's a lightsaber. Luke's a Jedi. He's got a lightsaber and takes him out. Had he just left him and gone away, which is the smart thing to do because you're a scout and you need to get back to get the information to somebody.
Yeah.
That just frustrated me so much. It's not that I wanted the Empire to win. I just wanted them to be intelligent. Even when he tried to create a character that had some of that with Boba Fett was following the Millennium Falcon in Empire Strikes Back so close, I'm not entirely sure how they didn't see that he was there. So in that case, you had both of them being stupid. Him following too close and them not checking their rear sensors.
Well, it's the concept of bad guy, the start that...
You keep going for a second, I gotta fix something.
The troopers aim. And it's not just that in movies and TV shows, and it's just really common with the Imperial troopers. They always aim terribly, aim terribly, and you would think that, especially when they're certain groups are supposed to be elite, their aim should be a lot better, but they can't. And that's very common, and I hate it because the idea is you can't hit the good guy. You can't hit the good guy. Well, why are you even having them shooting if you can't hit the good guy? Figure out another way to integrate that conflict. Oh man, sorry, my brain was not on Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars fan, and so when he starts talking Star Wars, I kind of... True, you can't. They just flying everywhere. When he starts talking Star Wars, I kind of zone out. So I was taken off guard.
Sorry, I was using you talking to adjust the bot because it was posting a lot.
No, you're okay.
Check your mirrors. Exactly. Always check your mirrors. I do audio transcription for insurance companies, and to me, it's just boggles my mind when people talk about how they got rear-ended and they were completely unaware someone was coming at them from behind. I can't drive without constantly checking my rearview mirror because I want to know who's on my side and who's behind me. Jack Snayer, you see those things above me? Way up at the top, that's what we're making. Lasers flying everywhere, everyone will be dead. Well, I said this after watching the prequels, and someone in Empire Strikes Back, they finally got it right. If I was in a battle and I saw an astromech droid on the battlefield, I don't care what else is going. No. I would shoot the astromech droid.
Okay, I don't even know what an astromech droid is.
R2-D2.
Oh.
It's the Enterprise D.
From the Next Generation.
Oh, yes. That's just, I can't imagine. That's just, they had to have done that because cars are designed to push them out automatically. They had to have pushed them back in, told them to go back in. Because that's a requirement on those vehicles that have that the car must turn them out. Maybe it was broken. Then I just push it out and leave it out. But the drivers that really get me, because it startles me, and I cannot afford to be startled while I'm driving, is the ones who ride in your pocket. Right on either side of you, just right there, so you can't go over, and they're just far enough back that you can't quickly slow down and get behind them because they're just kind of riding in your pocket. So they're like this, and they just stay there. So, yeah, it does boggle my mind, but at the same time, I kind of get the whole being completely oblivious, because sometimes it's just you have no control of it. It's just your brain is somewhere else. That's why I have to limit my driving. I have to take assessment of myself to see if I'm actually functional enough to drive.
But people have different things where they zone out and let habits take over.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, driving is one of those that's so dangerous.
Yeah,
it's one of the only things that we have as part of our daily lives that we're controlling a deadly weapon.
Yeah, you're driving around in a deadly weapon.
But it's so easy to let it.
Yeah,
turn into just a daily habitual thing.
I don't, as it's one of those, I don't mind doing it. I really don't like being out driving anymore because people just, it's too much, too many factors to deal with.
I have such a hard time going anywhere. Even just from the driving, sometimes it's not even about going where the people are, it's the driving itself is it's horrendous.
Usually after we go to church on Sunday, after being around all those people, my wife will drive back. Because I'm so exhausted from all the input and all the people coming from all directions and everyone trying to pet my dog. I have to do that self-assessment. And it's frustrating that you have to do it, but if you don't, you could put yourself and other people in danger.
I'm a huge fan of letting other people drive if they're willing.
Yeah. Oh, so I talked about the bot and how it's helped me. What are some things that you've done to help you remember to do things?
To control.
To make sure that those simple things happen so you don't get to the end of the day and you feel like it was a complete and total failure.
Well, I like the idea of I'm sitting here playing a video game. I mean, I'm not really playing very much. I'm just doing kind of cleanup work on this. But playing video games in general, there was a time where I did not play. And, we've talked some about taking control and preparing ourselves to accomplish tasks that have to be done. But entertainment, doing things that we enjoy, things that bring us pleasure, is in and of itself a necessity in our lives. And so there was a time when I was so bad, I couldn't even bring myself to play games, play my cello, read books.
Yeah, part of the reason that we started doing the streams together was because I was trying to get him to do something.
Therapy. My therapist. One of the things that we would set as a goal is there would be things that I used to enjoy that I knew that from before I enjoyed, and that he would want me to. Well, we would set the goals of. Do this or this many times during the week. And so I would have to go through that list and try to find which things I could still enjoy and which things were just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the reading the books part is gone, although I did discover the audiobooks help.
Yeah.
But it went to, I was playing video games, not because I wanted to play video games, but because I needed to find something that I could enjoy still. And it took a while to learn to enjoy them again. So I was playing video games for a while, and I would get bored with it. I didn't want to be playing, and so it would only be for maybe like half an hour or an hour at a time. But even the goals for video games, it was like a half an hour a day. Just do it. Just do it.
When
Nike thing.
This past year, this past year when I came back because I took almost all of 2018 off of streaming. When I came back and had my relapse after my deployment last year, I came back and had my relapse. One of the things that helped me start my day was I would get up in the morning and I would just play a game for 1 hour, because I would get up to send the kid off, and then I would have an hour until my wife got up. So I would play a game for an hour until she got up, and then I was done, and I'd start going about my day and doing the other things I needed to do. And the only reason I was doing it was because it was something, and I picked a game that was new, so it wasn't something that I'd feel like that I'd overplayed. And I would just play it just because I wanted to feel like I did something that I succeeded at, and that was it. There was no other reason. And then eventually I started doing the streaming, and that's kind of grown and expanded to what it is. But I can tell you that I have a Streaks app on here to help me, to remember to do things, and you kind of get the benefit of, you get these prizes for doing them. I also have them for the activities and stuff on my iWatch. One of them on there is do something fun. And when that one goes off, I actually have to think about it. did I actually do something fun?
Did I
Like,
go today with doing nothing
and
enjoyable?
I still have an issue with that, where I can get to the end of the day and I did not have fun. I didn't do something that resulted in me having fun. I
Well,
still have that problem.
Especially when you're feeling like, I have to reach these goals for work. I have to get these things accomplished for work. I have to get these things accomplished for editors. I have to get these things accomplished for the game company. I have to get these things accomplished to make sure the bills come in. There are all these things. It's very, very, very easy to let fun go away.
Yeah. My wife, when she comes home, one of the things she wants to do, because now it's the reverse. She gets up and she's gone an hour before Zoe gets up, and I get up to get her out the door. But my wife comes home an hour earlier. So, or you get so wrapped up in the things that you think you should be doing, or that you have to do, that as the day goes by, it just gets harder and harder to succeed at them, to keep yourself going, and then you get to the end of the day, and did I have any fun today? So my wife, when she comes home, I actually make her do something fun. Whatever she starts trying to do when she gets in, I will take it over from her, so she can't do it.
It's like, oh, I'm doing this now. Looks like you have to go.
Yeah. I won't let her prepare meals unless it's a day when I just haven't been able to get enough work done and I need to, and then I ask her, or I pick something that's really easy that's not going to take much from her. But one of the other things I do, my bot is on the second computer, which eventually is going to be the second streaming PC. It's going to be the PC in a 2 PC setup. But I still have some things to get to make that happen. But as soon as I'm done with it, I shut all that stuff off and I immediately turn the Sims on, so that when she comes in the door, she can play. She can play. If she doesn't have to wait for it to start up, it's there. She can play for 30 minutes and then get to the other things that she wants to do. Her projects outside, but she just can sit down, cool off because she's been out in the heat, have a drink of something that's cold, maybe a short little snack, and at the same time talk to me if she can. But sometimes she can't because I'm still working. And although we do take a moment to just connect right when she comes home, I've actually had to tell her to stop telling me about the kids she works with when I ask her how she's doing. Like, I didn't ask how your kids were doing. I asked how you were doing. So, but yeah, I do that.
Oh, go ahead.
It's even you don't even have to have something like PTSD or some other issue to get so caught up in what you're doing that you don't remember to have fun.
Yeah. Identity outside of.
Well, and for so long, Art, she was the stay-at-home, and she kind of lost herself in that. She got to the point where she couldn't separate herself from the mom, being the mom, and so she felt like she was letting her daughter down. I don't want her to just think, when she thinks back about her mom, to think that the only thing that she can remember is that her mom was
mom.
Yeah, she didn't have anything else. She was just mom. So that's why she started dance, and that's why she started trying to become parts of other communities, because she didn't want to be defined by that.
Yeah.
It is difficult, Jen. It does add to some of the difficulties, just stresses in general. But I mean, my daughter has had to figure out how to live with someone, an adult in her life, who sometimes cannot take care of them. I've told the story before of back in February when Art was gone to a retreat and I had to go to Kroger, and I had a meltdown. I had a breakdown right there in the store. And so my 12-year-old daughter was standing there trying to be the adult when the adult couldn't be the adult. That was when that nurse came up and tried to help.
Yeah.
She's had to grow up. She's had to grow up a lot over the past year, 2 years. She's suffered through a lot. She lost all of her best friends. She lost her home. She had to move away from the place that she grew up in, and she lost her pet rats, the cat who'd been with her. So I mean, she's unfortunately faced a lot of loss, but she's kind of had to grow up a lot. Have to remind ourselves of that sometimes.
And there's plenty of things about that will help her be a strong person throughout her entire life.
Oh, she is RD Meg, and I think I've shared this before. But this was just recently we found out this when I took her to do her walkthrough. I mean, to get her schedules was the Saturday right before school started. We got to the last station where they actually handed out the schedule once you'd passed all the tests to make sure you were good to go. Her orchestra teacher was sitting there, and I don't remember why we decided to talk to her. I think I just wanted to tell her that she was one of her favorite teachers. And the teacher got up and asked another person to take over so she could go off to the side and tell me that she had one of the worst years of her life last year. And the one thing that she knew she could count on was when she came to class, Zoe would make her smile in some way, shape, or form. Every single time. So, yeah. She does. She does sound. And yeah, she is. She is. She's almost to the point where we think she wants to try to do rats again, but she wants to be in a better location where she can have a serious setup, because I think she actually wants to start trying. She and Art have been talking about it, and if they do it, I'm actually going to make her do a video series on it as she does it. She wants to breed rats for longevity, not for specific types like Dumbo, Rex, anything like that, but because she wants to intentionally breed them to increase their lifespan.
And that I suspect that'll probably okay. Another topic altogether. I was about to head off on a tangent.
Well, but it's I did a search today on ways to cope with PTSD, and on all of them, and it also said this is not just PTSD. This is trauma. Period. Finding something else that you can invest yourself in, somebody else that you can help, is the number one way to help you start healing.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. I talked about that like 2 or 3 weeks ago with the 4 words thing, the whole 4 words drill, which is what led me to do the values thing for you. What 4 words could you put over your life if you were going to? And the idea came from a message that I heard where he was talking about this. Everyone can use these 4 words, and I spun them into something that was a little more usable for everybody, not just for religious people.
Yeah.
But the concept was the concept was to get you to a point where you were not just thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's been true. I turned this stream into this because I used to love volunteering. Now I can't do it. Not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
And
I feel you there.
Yeah, so what did I do? I'm still doing this. I still got this, but I still felt like it wasn't enough. So then I started talking. I actually just started talking. We were just doing co-play things, and then we just started talking about the things and that's what this turned into. And while it sometimes can be very tough to do this, it is something I look forward to.
Yes, very much. When I was in California, every time that we've had a break when we were moving, because you were moving and then I was moving, I very much missed having this. And then when I was in California, I missed having this. Yeah,
there's a reason why some of my titles were PTSD check-in. Just let's check in, let's see how we're doing. We don't have a topic, we're just going to check in and see how we're doing currently, because that can change. Day to day, it can change.
Yeah. And Jen, I kind of want to go back to, you had mentioned earlier, the brain is so loud. That's something that I deal with as well. Everything that I do in my life, it feels like, is trying to find a way to distract away from what's going on inside my head. Whether it's trying to fall asleep, whether it's playing video games, whether it's, finding audiobooks instead of reading, whether it's driving or not driving somewhere, everything just revolves around how do I distract away from all that noise. And then as a side to that, because that's I don't know if that's healthy or if it's more, because I kind of have a problem with avoidance.
Yes.
And so
avoidance or numbing.
Yeah. Another side to that is trying to find ways to activate my brain in topics that I know I need to deal with, but in healthier ways.
Artemis was dead. Welcome in.
For example, conversations, rather than thinking about my problems on my own, because I can't really process my problems on my own and not think about them in bad ways. Talk about them with other people. Share them in stories. That way, when my mind starts breaking around. Okay, the noise.
Yeah, well, she could be talking about voices. She could be talking about overloads of sensory input. There could be a lot of things that she's referencing. And here, it's loud. It manifests into hallucination. It's very distracting. Yeah, I've talked about how I have to go to sleep. I have to completely disengage with anything that I was engaged with over the day. Even just thinking about this little side fun project I'm doing just because I want to, with looking into what the Star Wars sequels tell us about the prequels, so I can go into this giant what if I had been able to write them, or what if I was allowed to write an alternate version. Even that, I can't focus on that because it just keeps my brain going, keeps it active. And if I don't disconnect into something that there is zero investment in, then I will not sleep. I will not fall asleep first, and then when I do fall asleep, my brain will be just absolutely riddled with nightmares. That's when the full-on night terrors come out, if I can't disconnect from things.
Yeah, and it's what we talk about on here a lot of times doesn't necessarily apply to anybody but us.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that we want to encourage people is talk to professionals, if at all possible. As much as us talking with each other and talking with you guys helps us, we've discovered that those things work for us. But at the same time, professionals really the only option for anybody who's struggling to overcome something that they're dealing with. And unfortunately, mental health professionals, it's like you have to have a rapport with that person, and so
it's called
it's
developing
professional.
There's a term for it. It's a specific term. It's part of the reason why I didn't work with the VA. If the professional doesn't take the time to build I forget the term for it, this kind of relationship, no healing is going to happen.
Yeah, and it took me a long time to find somebody that I actually made progress with. I worked with a number of other people and felt like I made no progress whatsoever.
Yeah, you have to find the right one. The therapist that I see every Wednesday does not work for my wife.
If there's no connection, there's no healing. Yeah.
Yes, if in that, we told you. I said hi. What we're talking about is mental health stuff. So I'm trying to stay on the topic. That's all that's
Artemis
up.
was dead as trying to say hi.
He did. Well, he did farther up, and I said hi. Welcome in.
Oh.
It's okay. For presently, I'm doing okay. We're trying to keep things positive because Chelsea Mike has a job interview 1 hour after we finish. So we're talking about ways we micromanage ourselves to set ourselves up for success. So that's what's up. We're talking about that, and we're building the Enterprise D because it's something that's not engaging. So you
responded to the greeting, but you didn't respond to the question.
Yeah, because you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you. Artemis, careful. This is a family-friendly channel. So please keep your language PG. No, you didn't know. You didn't know. Now you do.
I know, and I still break it sometimes.
Well, you're not as bad as Magnus.
Well, he doesn't care.
So there was something I wanted.
He does care. He says he doesn't
there was
care.
Something up here that I wanted to respond to. Now that Artemis can't say I'm ignoring him. Oh, Jen. You were talking about familiar noise helps me sleep. Okay, so every night when we go to bed, after we do all the routines to make sure, I actually am the person who has to get up, even if I know someone else did it, and go and check. Are the doors locked? Are all the things set the way they're supposed to be? Are the right lights off? Are the right lights on? Are the cats taken care of? Is the dog taken care of? I cannot go to sleep if I have not done those things because it will just drive me absolutely bonkers. Wondering, what if we didn't lock the door? So I have to do all that stuff. And one of the things that we do is we turn on a filter. We turn on a filter in our room, and we turn on a fan. to create that familiar noise. Now, my wife also has an app on her iPad that she puts directly on her pillow that's walking her through a self-diagnosis to get herself to sleep. I will do that with a yoga nidra thing sometimes if I'm having a real hard time disconnecting. I have a specific yoga nidra file that I got from a guy who did it for me on a retreat, and I'll listen to that. But really, the big thing about it is it's just body scan followed by breathing exercises. And really, if all you do when you go to lie down, even if you don't necessarily fall asleep, if you just sit there and practice breathing, just focusing on deep, controlled breathing, that by itself is so restorative for you. And it does work. It's why when we talk about calming and centering, one of the first things they tell you to do is close in, turtle time, now breathe. Just breathe. Only think about the air going in and the air going out, and that's it. That's why it's so common in that.
Yeah, Artemis was that it.
It's bad. Well, people are bad. People are mean. Artemis. It's not right, and unfortunately, it gets attention, so they do that. I mean,
it's like we have enough problems with our own selves. We don't need other people compounding all of the problems.
Well, it's that whole thing.
Us.
It's that whole thing. Remember about the Twitch toolkit? People who watch Twitch streams are there for the entertainment. Now, obviously, there's some exceptions for things where people are just chatting, but even then, they want to feel engaged. And when it's just games, one of the ways they feel engaged is they want to be entertained. And if they can interact with the game in any way to make it more entertaining, they will. You can guarantee they will make your life a lot more difficult. Cellist Mike was brave enough to do a Twitch Toolkit stream on the Pixel Sharks channel months ago, and he's never gone back to it because they just absolutely destroyed him. There was nothing he could do. Yes.
Ban troll, yep.
Well, and you can, but they're also, particularly on this stream, I really try to give people a little more understanding, grace, because I want them to feel like they can talk.
Yeah, it's
it's a balance. It's a delicate balance. Go ahead.
I don't want to go into this topic, but I want to bring it up as a point of reference in terms of trolls.
Trolls. Hey, I got called a troll this week, and it bugged me. Like, I'm not what. And eventually I talked to the person off stream, and they realized, oh, okay, it was just me misinterpreting. Okay, that's cool. Problem was, he said a lot on stream before he had the conversation with me, but he's a good guy. We talked, and it's totally cool.
Okay, so you're not going to like this, and like I said, I don't want to talk about the subject in general, but just a connection between, how do you account for the existence of horrible people? We both suffer from something that we've mentioned before, but only talked about once, which was
moral injury.
Oh, you use the correct terminology. I always just think personal guilt, just like deep-seated guilt. Moral injury.
Moral injury.
The difference between somebody suffering from moral injury and a troll, or any other person who participates in horrible behavior, is the recognition that what they're doing is wrong. And you can't teach that to somebody. You can't teach somebody to feel that what they are doing is wrong. It's just either it happens or it doesn't. And so we come from a background of doing things that now we understand to be things that we feel are very wrong. And so we suffer from moral injury. But trolls, the only distinction is they haven't figured out that it's wrong. Even if they say, oh, I know it's wrong, but I enjoy it for that reason, that's still technically not understanding that it's wrong, because it's recognition that it's societally wrong. It's not recognition that it's a negative value. It's being a negative value. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
So trolls
are
people too. They're just people that, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with.
Well, yeah, a lot of times trolls or bullies are just, they're covering up for something else. There's something else there's something that is happening to them. A lot of times they lash out and attack people because they're being attacked, or they make you afraid because they're afraid. But it's hard when you're in that circumstance. I have a teen, a preteen who's heading into teen, she's starting to experience this at school, and she doesn't understand why people do it, because she's genuinely a nice person to everybody that she can be, and she doesn't understand why people make things harder for her when all she does is be nice to them.
Jen, we are going to be done in about 25 minutes.
Cellist Mike will be done in 25 minutes. If I need to keep on a conversation because it's productive for someone, I will keep going. But Cellist Mike, I am definitely kicking you off in 25 minutes so you can go get ready.
Yes.
But yes, it's self-awareness. That's, Jen, I think that's kind of what, yes, he does need to get ready. Self-awareness is something that I'd say bullies and trolls, they really lack. But they think they know it. They think they're aware.
And that goes back to, what we were talking about. Everybody thinks they're the good guy.
Oh yeah. So you think that random Star Wars thing was completely random? In some ways it was, but that concept of the bad guy always thinks they're the good guy.
Oh, who mentioned earlier? Really self-aware.
I appreciate the humor in that statement, Artemis. I do appreciate the humor.
Am I joking? Well, Stephen Hawking said something along the lines of, this is going to be total paraphrase, something along the lines of, if you can't find humor in the dark places, you're going to live in, life is going to be horrible.
And it's more and I would say, going along the lines of that, it's more a matter of understanding the tone. Are you tone deaf? There is a time and a place to do it, and it's perfectly fine to do it. But if you're not aware of the tone that's of the situation, and you do it, then it's not that you're a joke. It's just that you're not aware. Does that make sense?
Yeah. RV Mac mentioned, I used to bully people too. When I was younger, I was a horrible bully. I'm not that way. I haven't been for a very long time, but I very much used to be a bully.
Yeah. And actually, Artemis, that is precisely what we were saying. They're coping with something. They want to. Something is happening to them, and so they want someone else to feel like what they're feeling like. And we get this in businesses. Think about the. I'm trying to think of an example if you understand. Think about boot camp. Everyone talks about how bad boot camp is for people going in the military. Part of the reason it's so bad is because the people who are running it used to do it, and things were bad for them, and so they want to keep passing. I was like, it was bad for me. You're complaining now. Well, let me tell you what it was like when and then they'll try to make your life miserable. It's kind of a coping thing. Life is bad for me, and I don't think life should be good for you because life is bad for me. So I'm going to take it out on everybody because life really isn't that good.
And it's I think it's. For me, at least, it's easier to deal with. I won't deal with a bully or a troll in their own terms.
Yeah.
If they figure out that they want to change or be different, I'll deal with that. But I won't deal with it under the terms of them being a bully or a troll.
Yeah, changing where the conversation is happening. It's the same thing as not fighting an enemy on their turf.
Yeah.
Because they feel vulnerable, that's why they're doing that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found that it comes with age is the understanding that first off, yes, there was something that created that victim feeling in you, and it was justified. And then second, but that's not what you have to be. And a lot of times bullies are victimizing other people because they were victimized. It's the same thing with people who abuse children of any kind. It's mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, multiple types of physical abuse. Usually they do it because it was done to them.
Yeah.
And that...
Too self-aware?
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you can be a little too self-aware that it paralyzes you. There are some people who won't do something because they'll just use it as the excuse. So I know a couple people I would say it like that, but sometimes just being self-aware can be its own curse.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing, but it can be. Some blessings are also curses.
True.
And I wouldn't necessarily say it's a problem.
Oh my
it
word.
it can be a double-edged sword. My wife actually we've talked about this a lot, of the problem of being too self-aware is that you're too self-aware. Here's a completely innocent example. When my wife is in, it's not so bad now. It used to be a lot worse because she never got adult interaction. When she would finally get it, she would be so excited to talk, but she was so aware that she was doing it that she would hamstring herself, and then she would just feel all tied up in that. Even though she didn't actually talk too much afterwards, she would constantly ask me, did I let people speak? Was I rude? And I would try to reassure her, but she was just so aware of the fact that she was lacking this input, that she was trying to get it, but at the same time she knew that she was lacking it, and so she might be overcompensating, so she overcompensated the other way. I'd say that's a fairly innocent example.
So
yeah, it does, Artemis. It does make it worse. And I'm going to say this, the conversation that Jealous Mike hinted at, once you become aware, it can be brutal. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
But that specific topic is part of my recovery that I haven't gone to go near yet, because I'm not ready. I mean, I'll just say it. I am not ready to forgive myself.
Nope.
Because once the awareness hit me, I could not believe what I had done willingly.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
And that's one of those things that, yeah.
And this past week is always but rough for me because of what this past week is about. Inevitably. I can't, as much as I try to avoid it, I can't, because everybody else wants to talk about it. And I don't. I won't want anything to do with it. I want to stay away from it. Because...
So closed clinics, really quick, I'm going to interrupt really quick here. Closed clinics are not bad. We stigmatize, oh my gosh, we as a society stigmatize things so badly. So things like self-image, if you're overweight, if you are unattractive, like those things we personalize so heavily because we're social creatures, we depend on one another. And so when we feel like we are not of value because we don't have what society says we should have, it can be destroying. And so going to a closed clinic, I think, falls into that same category of things that society says is bad. But you know what? If you need to be there, you need to be there. Like as a person, I thought that I was going to be put into a closed clinic, a couple times. And I didn't need it, but if I need to go there one day, I need that help.
Mm-hmm.
And there is absolutely nothing wrong with a person getting the help that they need. I think it's kind of a very, very backward thing for society to demonize a person because they're getting the help that they need. That's completely, it's...
Jen, the sea lanterns are simply a count. They help us count. Those are grids. These are 10 by 10 grids.
Yeah, they're going to be gone at the end. We're going to get rid of
Artemis, as long as you know that there are people that you can talk to, and look at that thing that's down there on the bottom of my thing right there, that crisis line, you call that number and don't press 1, it's the National Suicide Hotline. Just as long as you know that there are options out there.
We've had a conversation about suicide before on here.
It's not messed up because look, this is the center for the side. Look at this. Look at the way the slope goes. This is center.
No. There's one spot, the spot that you were just working on, that very specific spot is. I noticed it too.
I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet. It's not going to be finished.
Do you see it?
What about it?
There's two spots. There's two blocks that are placed off grid.
Right here?
Yeah, to the right. 2 blocks to the right.
Oh, those.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're having a serious conversation. Okay? Eventually, when I came back around, I would have seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is...
No, Jen, totally. We make jokes. If you look down on the ground at the very bottom, there's light, and it's all perfectly patterned. I saw it as soon as it happened too.
Yeah, and the thing is, Chalice Mike could totally have come and just fixed it.
Yeah, and I actually have been doing that.
Yeah. Actually, when I usually just don't think about the sea lanterns because I know he'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you need help, get it. That's the biggest thing we're going to say here.
Even if you don't want to. I will tell you, oh my gosh, multiple times in this stream, we come all the way back to, it doesn't matter whether you want to or not, you need to.
Well,
and it could be playing games. So earlier today, early in this stream, I was talking about how I needed to play games, with talking to a therapist, finding a reason to enjoy something. Not because I wanted to do it, because I needed to do it. I needed to learn to enjoy something again. Or taking showers. I never want to take a shower, but forcing myself to take showers, forcing myself to go to the grocery store, forcing myself to go outside. Getting help is one of those things that you don't do it because you want to do it. If you only do things because you want to do them, I mean, where does that leave you? You're doing nothing.
Honestly, it's the thing about them is they have the ability to, when you call, to figure out where you are, so that they can get someone who's in your area to help. Because when it comes down to it, they're just a resource to help you find help that is going to be more useful to you.
Yeah. Oh, we did have a conversation. I don't remember if it was with you or if it was somebody else, but I had posted links to international hotlines, and they do vary from country to country.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day,
I think it was Artemis.
Where you are,
I think it was Artemis. I remember that conversation.
Okay.
I think that was it. This is not his first time here.
No, even for things that aren't suicide, providers vary. Like we both talked about how finding somebody that was helpful for us took a long time. And that goes to multiple people that we worked with not ending up being helpful.
Yeah, I tried several people in the VA's thing, and it just did not work. So, I was going to also say that part of the one, I'm trying to remember what it was that specifically triggered this thought, but the whole getting help when you know you need it, part of the problem that the people in our, when I say our, I mean Chalice, Mike, myself, and Lurch, because we all worked in the same environment. And at that time when we were, because Lurch got out before we did, at that time where we were, if you went to get help, it could very likely cost you your job.
Yeah, I mean, 4 years, it cost me 4 years, but I'm not upset about that because I needed to get out anyway.
No, I mean, that stuff, that's different. I mean, you eventually found out what they did, and it was actually wrong.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, at the time, if you went to floor 13 and they found out you went to floor 13, they wouldn't let you back, even if you were feeling better, because you got the help you needed. They wouldn't let you back in because they couldn't.
You were too much of a risk or whatever.
Yep. And so people, fearing losing their jobs, would not go get help. And that was the environment that we cut our teeth in. And I mean, years afterward, I left in 2013. So the most of the problems had kind of gone under the carpet, gone under the desk, so people weren't aware of them anymore. But there were resources that were brought in just to fight that stigma, and people just weren't aware of it or wouldn't take care of it because they did not believe that they would go unnoticed and they would not get punished for it.
And there's also certain life situations make it more difficult. You and I were very lucky. We had a lot of access to different providers. We had opportunities to find new providers, whereas some people, it could be because they're young and they don't have that much control over their own lives. It could be where they live. It could be financial considerations, but some people don't have the same opportunity to get the help that they need.
Yeah. And it's also, when you add in factors like cultural, how the culture that you live in, how it looks at people getting help, and family. I can tell you that as much as they just tried as hard as they might, I could tell that when my in-laws visited, they were very confused. And my mother, not my mother, but my mother-in-law, was extremely unaware of how the topics that she thought were safe were actually not safe.
It's the stop looking part, Lurch, and the stop cold turkey, and the too scared to do it. These are the things we
That's why we talk about these things, because we don't want people to give up on these things because of it didn't work the previous time, or because the world that they were in just wasn't supportive of it enough.
It has to be something that you take into your own hands, always. And if it's, unfortunately, a lot of people decide to solve that with suicide, and I'm very, my personal loss from that is just devastating. But to think that it doesn't happen, to think that people don't want to be out, is idiotic, because life sucks, people suck. But it can be done, and the only thing that will keep it from happening is not pursuing it, because at the end of the day, we're all our own responsibility. Like, nobody will ever fix it. Nobody ever will fix it.
And honestly, some things, you say the word fixed, but some things you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, I am nothing like I used to be, and I'll never be that person. I mourn it.
It's accepting. We've talked about before. Accepting the new norm. I don't like the new norm. I don't like it at all. But it doesn't matter how much I don't like it. That's the new norm.
To be very honest, I hate myself. Especially having been somebody that I liked, because we're so different than we used to be. So much about who we are, everything, what we enjoy, how we spend our time, how we interact with the people around us, every little bit of our lives is fundamentally different than it used to be. And so when you enjoyed that previous version of you and you hate the new version of you, it just becomes a test of,
and that's
saying that it's just what it is and accepting it.
That feeling of how much you hate yourself is not productive.
No.
But
so it's just
being aware doesn't make it go away. That's why that's kind of why we talked about what we were talking about. The new norm. Okay, so for Cellist Mike, I'll give, because he's talked about it, I'll try to sum it up and he can correct me. He used to be an adventurer. He had the wanderlust. He wanted to go out and do things. That's not the new norm for him anymore. Yeah, he wanted to meet people. The thought of going out and meeting people now, I mean, it sets my, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, but it's not, that has changed. I would much rather stay at home than go someplace and hang out with people. I would just know. If I'm going to go someplace, I want it to be a small, very select group of people that I felt safe with. And there's the catch-22. Yes. How am I supposed to find those people if I never get to go out and do those things?
And so you force yourself to do it.
Yep. That's why that's why I made myself start going back to the group that I hang out with on Sundays, because I needed to find some way to connect. And that group was extremely understanding and extremely accepting. It's very much like what you were talking about last week, Jen, with that class that just stepped up. Even if they didn't understand, they did something to help you feel safe. And that's what that class has done for me, and that's gone. I still have issues speaking loudly, and I will just be quiet if instead of trying to say something. But if you ask, then they said, because I actually thanked them at one point, or my wife thanked them, and they actually straight up said, we've seen the difference. So on those times when you don't feel like you're making progress, just remember, and we'll tell you if you ask us, we see the progress. And that's huge. Yeah. The silently reading it. A lot of people don't understand what silently reading means.
No.
In our previous job, if you were sitting there just kind of like, it looked like you were looking at your computer, you weren't typing anything, and you just looked like you were spaced, you could actually just be spaced because you're trying to figure out what it is you're listening to, and someone will comment like, hey, are you working? And then, yeah, you just interrupted me.
Go away.
People's people's perception of what busy looks like, what being productive looks like, is it's very different. And I can guarantee you now, the way I am now, the way I look when I'm being productive, most people would think he's doing nothing.
I don't know if there's an equivalent in English.
Life goes on.
Life goes on. Yeah, but in America we have there's a societal pattern of expectation and entitlement. Somebody else is going to do it for me. So blame somebody else. And so the idea of life is life, but you know, life is a party, but you have to hang the garlands yourself.
We have a very litigious society here.
Taking
you are not wrong.
Personal responsibility. For there to be a common idiom for that in English, at least in America, I'm unaware of it because people are too
I would say the now the current ones would be something like YOLO or life goes on, or que sera sera, which isn't necessarily an English phrase, but it's been made famous by by a very famous American movie. What will be will be. But Artemis, something that's important to understand is knowing that putting your own effort in and actually being able to make yourself do that are two entirely different things. I knew that if I put the effort in long enough and hard enough, carpe diem, seize the day. But that all again, that's not English. But seize the day. You're right. It's a much better phrase than that. Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life, or don't forget to have fun along the way. Don't forget to stop and smell the roses.
Yeah. However, even if we're struggling to find similar phrases in English, this stream, and I'm wrapping up just because I personally have off.
Yeah, you have to get off in 3 minutes.
This stream, if there's a common theme that you'll always find on our PTSD streams, it's nobody else will fix it. It's all about you. It's all about you. Empowerment, encouragement. For you, I mean me. It's about, what am I doing today? What do I have to do to get ready? What do I have to do to get over these hurdles? What do I have to do to motivate myself? And even talking about, and I'll go back to what my therapy was very, very central, is just do it. It's like, yes, you don't have the motivation to do it. The last thing you want to do is to do this X, Y, or Z. Just do it.
Yeah.
Because I know in my mind, in my brain, I know it's healthy. I know I need it. And so even though I can't bring myself to do it, in that one glimmer of a moment that even if I don't want to do it, that one glimmer of a moment where I can force myself to do it, just do it.
Nike, there you go. Just do it.
That's funny.
There we go. That goes back to what I was talking about earlier, the getting up in the morning and just starting my day. Everyone would say, you start your day playing a game, that must be nice. And I'm sitting here thinking, you just have no idea how detrimental that phrase is you just said to me. Because right now, getting up and playing a game in the morning is so hard for me to even do. You should see me trying to explain to people about streaming online while playing, talking about things while playing a video game. You can just feel their judgment.
Getting up is already hard enough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Getting up is already hard enough. It can be. If I didn't have to be the one getting up to make sure the kid got out the door, I probably wouldn't get up as early as I do. And when we lived in our previous apartment, I was actually forcing myself to get up earlier when my wife got up. So, when well, we were going to wake each other up one way or the other so that I could get myself out there and get to work so I could even just feel productive.
I'm chuckling at Jen, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, Chalice Mike. Well, you have 1 hour till your appointment. We wish you luck.
Right. The
remember,
last thing I want to do right now is go shower, but guess what I'm going to go do?
yes, go take a quick shower, and remember,
Boom. Thank you, Jen.
it's a phone call. It's very casual. It's probably going to be one person. It's probably going to be the same person that interviewed me. She's very nice. And talk about as much as you can what we used to do, and there you go.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you can do this.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
So, thank you for joining us today, Chalice Mike. Hopefully he'll have some good news. I don't even want to meet new people. I don't either. What do you do for a living? I don't. Most people. I have a part-time job, and I have a project a writing and creative project that's going to provide something. But that part-time job I'm doing is not. It's basically paying for our groceries, because that's all I can put into it. It takes so much effort for me to do the job that is my my part-time job, that if I get enough to pay for groceries and gas for the family for the week, I'm happy. But if it wasn't for the other things that were coming in to help, we would have been in trouble. And I think you can understand what I'm talking about there, Lurch. So yeah, I tell people that when you try to tell people what it is that you do, I just don't like having the conversation at all. I just don't want to. I avoid people like the plague. I don't want to talk to them, and I have a magnet for people. I have an absolute magnet for people to come talk to me. It's called Groot, the dog, which if he was a little closer, I could turn the camera. I need to set up his camera again, because he's actually a lot better about staying in one place. Everybody wants to know what breed he is, because they are just absolutely fascinated by his coloring. And they just want to know. Or they want to know about service dogs. Sometimes it's easier than... what? Smelly. That's what breathy is. Here it's not so bad. You see, very good, Artemis, very good. You read the tone and you knew it was okay to do that. Good job. See, there are ways to quote unquote be a troll, but do it in a way that everybody can enjoy. Because we talked about this earlier, and you absolutely nailed it. Pictures. I could show. Yeah, if you guys don't mind me doing a little on-the-fly stream thing, I can share a picture of him. I gotta think of where the picture is. I know I've shared one with Fluffy. Let me find it in his fluff sharing thing. Finding one for me is going to be difficult because there's so much fluff in this channel. Most of the pictures that I've posted or that I've taken are on my phone, unfortunately. So, let me look. Let me see. Now, the kappa does help. If you're just trying to be funny when you're being sarcastic or something. Yeah, yes, Artemis, but you need to be obvious, because people can't read tone in text. That's what happened yesterday with me and that other streamer. The streamer thought I was getting frustrated when I was actually having a blast trying to figure out how to, because it was a audience participatory thing. But oh boy, game mechanic, welcome on in. Well, I appreciate that. And that gives me a chance to play my new thing.
Wait a minute, Dracula. Did you ever have the feeling you're being watched? That the eyes of strange, eerie things are upon you? Look, fool!
People, welcome on in. Game Mechanic, how are you doing? How are you? How's your latest round of Civ? For those who are here at my channel who don't know the Game Mechanic, if you want to see Civ played right, go watch him. We are having a good day today talking about being successful while you struggle with a mental disorder, specifically PTSD. I'm Guthron. Hi, welcome in. Let me switch to this. So I'm Guthron. I'm a veteran with PTSD, and I talk about it here to help me cope and to help others feel like they're not alone. We play games sometimes while we do this. Right now I'm playing Minecraft, building a ship. I also stream to the Extra Life channel, which I'm going to share this, and I'm going to warn you, as soon as I share it, a screen that's not supposed to be on is going to come on. So there, I warned you. On Fridays, I stream to the Extra Life channel because I try to turn my streaming into something that's helpful in multiple ways. So, welcome on in. And the Game Mechanic actually joined us at one point to talk about his experiences in surviving a mass shooting. And it was a great experience. It was great to listen to how he coped, how he came to understand what he was dealing with, and how his recovery has been going. Nautilus Knots, welcome in. Thank you for that host, and Artemis, thank you for that host earlier. And I have the video. It's on my YouTube channel and my PTSD playlist. It was a great interview with Game Mechanic. It was interesting to hear, because most of the people that I know came to this kind of life by way of military service. But I know that it's not just military members that get it, and so listening to someone who was present at a traumatic event and describe it, it was eye-opening. And I thank you, Game Mechanic, very much again for being willing to come on and share about what happened and your path on the road to recovery, which for a lot of us is endless. I think you may suffer for, you may deal with it for the rest of your life. It's the new norm, as we called earlier. But yeah, today, Cellist Mike, my co-host, who just left, and that's the big thing: destigmatization. We want people to know that there's a place that they can talk about it. Cellist Mike, actually, who just left, who's another veteran with PTSD. He took a big step last week and applied for a job and got an interview scheduled for today. So Oz, appreciate that lurk. Be sure to bring some cheese back. Danny, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. It's sad when you have to say that. But yes, he's got the call in 53 minutes, and I think he's going to do well because it's a job I'm doing, and he has the same experience that I had, and so I'm pretty sure he's gonna. But obviously, it's still something that's nerve-wracking when you're getting ready to go do it. So we talked today about setting yourselves up for success, using devices, using routines, using habits, all those things like that. And thank you very much, GarPG and Garvidal, for that follow. Hopefully we'll be able to see you guys around when we have these streams. Yeah, I was actually going to wrap up, but we've been having a good conversation, and I feel like actually continuing it because we've been talking a lot about how you can survive and succeed at the same time, and the things that you do to help you do that, which can be very difficult. Accepting that new norm, as we said before. Game Mechanic, you had to talk about it a lot, about what it was like when you first realized when someone made a loud noise near you, that sudden reaction, and you just didn't understand what happened. Yeah, I'm not somewhere where I can do that, Artemis. And I'm not, and until I'm done with a certain career that I have one part of the year, still can't explore that. So definitely, that's not an option for me. And so yeah, I actually still have to deal with the dreams of it. That's why I have a service dog. He's training to be able to wake me up when those night terrors hit. It's more prevalent around big events. This past week was rough for me. I don't like what this past week is about now. I just, even if I try to avoid it, someone will bring it up, and I have to get myself away from it as quickly as possible because I don't want to deal with the thoughts it's gonna bring up in me, the dealing with the guilt and stuff from the things that I willingly took part in that now I'm horrified that I did. It's just, yeah, it's not fun. There are studies that show that. You're right, Lurch, that cannabis does have that effect, that it's highly effective. The state I live in is not going to do that. So, someday I might get to see what it's like, but presently, where I live and then with the considering I'm still a member of the reserves, it's not going to be anytime soon. So, don't mind me while I continue to build the Enterprise D, which is, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to do something like this when you're having a conversation, but that's okay. I have people like Jen to remind me when I mess up. Garvidal, that's rough. And that one was particularly, I wasn't there, but having run 3 marathons and being at the end where all those people are, hearing that story was just, it hit so close to home. I've run a marathon in Atlanta, I've run a marathon in Seoul, Korea, and I've run a marathon in Frankfurt, and all of them at the end had large groups of people there. And just to think about what it would have been like to be there, it's mind-boggling. Well, 3 blocks in the grand scheme of things is not that far. But semi-legal being hoping they don't ID for it. Well, Garvidal, remember, if there's you don't have to actually have been at right at an event for something to traumatize you. My trauma that I'm not going to go into right now was from witnessing things repeatedly that I had no choice but to subject myself to them because it was a part of my job. Things that I was not told that I would have to. And I've seen things that I will never be able to unsee. And it's more complicated because I took part in things that I tried to make things better, and unfortunately the things that I did to make it better just in some ways made it worse. And so that's part of the reason why when the topic comes up that Chalice Mike said I wouldn't be happy to bring up. He's right. I don't like it coming up because it just starts going down that path, a path where I don't just have to deal with what I saw and what I was subjected to, but I have to deal with my role in it. So I have a hard enough time talking about it. Just period. That's I would say that part of the reason why I started this was to create a safe place where I feel like I could talk about it. And maybe by me talking about it, other people would come to terms with what they might not realize the baggage they're carrying, particularly people who I used to work with or people who were in that field, like Chalice Mike and Lurch, who's in the chat, former coworker also. Yeah, and there is hope. I can tell you that I experienced trauma as a child that I don't mind talking about. I don't to help other people. I usually don't bring it up on here because that's generally not what this stream is about, because it's more focused on the veterans and the PTSD. And I didn't suffer from PTSD from the childhood trauma. I did have a lot of issues I had to deal with that I didn't deal with until much later, and unfortunately the process of dealing with those things may have exacerbated the situation I found myself in that led to my mental break and eventual departure from the Air Force. That's a whole different story. But I will say this. I was sexually assaulted 4 different times over the course of 4 years. And it messed me up. It messed me up a lot. And there's a site, I don't know if it's, I don't know, I don't think I still have this one on there. I'll just write this down. I think, actually, what the heck, I'll just go look for it. Let me switch to this, and I'll change to that browser. How do you get to a point where you can say it? Some of it's just a choice. You just say, I'm gonna say it. I think there's a point where, and honestly, Jen, I had to go through EMDR therapy before I really got to the point where I could talk a little bit more about it. But this is the site right here for people like me. The number 1 in 5 is generally meant to indicate the number of men who have experienced it but carry it, they carry it inside. They don't talk about it because it's not, you think there's a stigma about talking about PTSD. The stigma around men talking about what was done to them when they were, some of them in the military, some of them as children. It's rough. And then there's the stigma of, well, you were once one. What's going to prevent you from becoming one? No, I don't think. No, I don't think it's easy for anybody to talk about. No, it requires a lot of therapy. It requires feeling safe, and it requires getting to a point in your recovery where you are separated enough from the events that you can talk about them like they were a story without being re-traumatized by talking about them. I can't do that with some of the things that I experienced later in my life, but I can talk about that now with that particular thing, and I don't feel I'm back in that event. There's enough separation from it that I can tell that story and not feel like I'm falling back into, or that I'm still there. And that the EMDR helped. But EMDR is tiring, and it's you want to talk about a serious type of therapy, it is not for everybody. It will wear you out. I nearly destroyed 2 cars after going through EMDR sessions. Yeah, there are unfortunately people who do that. You're right, and that does add to the stigma. You are not wrong, Artemis. Not everyone who experiences trauma will develop PTSD. The concepts behind, and I actually have it on this. I had a page up earlier. Where is it? Let me read. I want to read the definition of it. The difference between PTSD and a normal response to traumatic events, and I'll put this on the stream so you guys can see it. Right here on the right there. So the difference between them is, following a traumatic event, everyone experiences at least some of the symptoms of PTSD. You feel your sense of safety and trust are shattered. Think about when your house has been broken into. That's a traumatic feeling. You don't feel safe. Think about being near a bomb going off. That's definitely going to make you not feel safe. Or being near a shooting, guns going off that aren't in a controlled setting. That's going to be a traumatic event. Being surprised by what a gun feels like when you fire it, that can be a little traumatic to experience. Those symptoms, though, generally are short-lived. If they stick around, if those things stay around, sometimes they'll lift later. Sometimes you need a different kind of therapy to just move past that initially. And that's where the term adjustment disorder comes from. People who don't have a difficulty adjusting to things that have suddenly changed because of a traumatic event. But the difference between that and PTSD is the symptoms never go away. They don't decrease. They just, and sometimes they can get worse. They never leave you. And that's why we were talking earlier about the new norm. The new norm that is what you have to adjust to. Chalice Mike, I'll use his example, a nice safe example. He used to be a wanderlust kind of person. He loved getting out and going on adventures. Now, it's just for him, and he'll tell you, it's a struggle just to get out the door to go buy groceries. Delivery is when he's discovered that was an option. That was a big boon for him. Me having the service dog now, it's a lot easier for me to get out to go do those things. But I will still, if I can, I will still arrange for a pickup as opposed to going into a store like Kroger, because there is so much sensory input in there that can overwhelm me. That I used to be able to cope with. It was easier to cope with, but that doesn't mean it was. That doesn't mean it wasn't difficult. Now I can't. The sensory input can overload me. That's not the way it used to be. I used to just have issues with being hyper-focused on it. Now it can stress me out. Well, Nixie, most people can't take people yelling at them. But there's an example of you experienced a traumatic event and you went to therapy, and the symptoms, the result, the panic attacks, you were able to work with it and move past the symptoms. Now, depending on how long that took, you could probably have been diagnosed with PTSD, but you're not there now. Yep, you do have to reprogram your brain. It does take a lot of time. And that's why we were talking about today, the things that you can do to micromanage yourself to success. Most people don't like being micromanaged, but there's a difference between being micromanaged by someone else and micromanaging yourself. I use a certain device that we'll just call Echo, so she doesn't go off. I use a device. There are so many reminders that are in there. I have different kinds of, I have an achievement-based app on here that reminds me to do things like have fun, to eat. I will forget to eat. I will just plain forget to eat. And even though I know I should do it, I still forget to shower sometimes. I have to remind myself, take a shower. It's just, and as I mentioned about the sensory overload, I have a real hard time managing too much sensory input now. Whereas before I could kind of cope with it, I could self-regulate. Not anymore. I had to reteach myself how to fall asleep as a part of it, because I also was diagnosed with insomnia as a result of the work schedule, the lifestyle that I was forced to adapt, forced to change to in my previous life. The addition of the PTSD on top of that just made that even harder. So I've done a lot of things to make it so falling asleep is not a challenge as much anymore, although I still have to be very careful about what I let my brain focus on before I go to bed. Very much so. I can't handle any serious conversations after 8 o'clock, or I won't fall asleep. Falling asleep, though, is something that, because I had to adapt to that earlier, I kind of still have it. I don't have that much. I know what to do. I don't want to say I don't have difficulty. I know what to do. That doesn't mean I'm going to stay asleep, though, because once I fall asleep, I have no control over where my brain goes, and my brain will go back to things to try to I don't know, just to deal with them or what, and it's terrifying. And I have to rip myself from dreams, and that's why I end up waking up and getting out of bed, because I'm trying to get away from them. Well, initial onset of those problems is the worst, I will agree. It's kind of like when you have a burn. Actually, you can't see it now, but I burned that hand on Saturday night. That hand was burned. And I had to I held an ice pack all night, and then I put some arnica on it, and then some kind of muscle rub that has some lidocaine in it. And then I just didn't use the hand all night. And the next day I woke up, you could barely see where it was. So that initial night without doing all that stuff would have been absolutely horrible. So the initial onset is, it's the worst. It's the worst part of it. It can stay at that level, or it can get better. It really just depends on what's going on. Last week was rough for me just because of what last week is about. And for people who don't realize, last week was the 18th anniversary of 9/11, and that event completely altered my life. It completely altered a lot of people's life. But when I had to enlist, that event really did. It changed my life in ways I wasn't even aware of at the time. It pushed me to be willing to put myself in an environment where I could do things that I would later look at and go, why did I let myself take part of that? Nixie, I'm glad you were able to be here as well. I hope I can catch your next stream. New streamer there. Mixumi is a brand new streamer. She just started last week. No, a week ago Friday. So, and she's been started streaming with her son. I missed that stream. That was the one I wanted to get to. Well, Malden, and I hope I'm saying that right, Malden. You can be diagnosed with depression separate from PTSD. That is you can have those two coexist, like in the same. You can have those two separate diagnoses. At first, I was diagnosed with depression along with some other things because the VA didn't want to deal with the greater problem, but eventually they had to change the rating because that's what I was diagnosed with, and they couldn't argue with it anymore. But there are a lot of parallels. You are right. There are a lot of parallels. I used to be, and most people, yeah, it can come from anywhere. You're right, MS. I will say okay, this is going to be controversial. I know, depending on where you fall on the side this discussion. I actually think that The Last Jedi was a very good movie. It was not perfect. There are definitely plot holes and things and stuff like that, but for me, watching, I used to be the eternal optimist. I was positive about everything. And I grew up with Luke Skywalker as the eternal optimist. And him having failed and gone through traumatic experiences and coming out the other end still being an optimist, I mean, sure, we all would have liked that. But seeing him a shell of who he used to be because of that rang so true for me. So I was having to do breathing exercises while watching it. I'm not gonna lie. I was having to do breathing exercises while watching it. And you know, the ending it is what it is. But I did have a hard time with the ending, but because it was just, I was so invested in that character, and I was so particularly invested in the character in that movie. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm being very careful about it, but you can kind of get from the trailers that he's not the same happy-go-lucky optimist that he was when he was growing up, and that's natural. Lurch, you said you were diagnosed with panic disorder a decade later with depression and PTSD. And see, Lurch, I'm very glad we were able to connect. Lurch is a former coworker of mine. We used to work in the same room on the same on the same stuff, and he left before I did. But it took a long time for him to get the diagnosis that he needed, in part because it was the system, it was difficult, but in part because he didn't know. He didn't understand. There's a lot, and I think there's a lot of that in our former career field. So I was very glad when you came and started talking, because I think that there's a lot more of us in that career field that don't realize that they have a problem, and I want them eventually to get the help that they need and not be afraid to ask for that help. So that's another reason why I do this, because a lot of them know that I do this, and eventually I hope they'll actually come check it out and maybe realize that they might need to look into getting some help. And see, Malden, I had never experienced the extreme anxiety and panic attacks until I was trying to get out, and I felt so trapped, and the events that were going on just kept getting worse and worse and worse, that that's when I really started to experience it. So my diagnosis when I left was insomnia, anxiety disorder, and complex PTSD, which is what the VA fought and then eventually lost. But I'd never experienced that. I didn't know what it was like to have I had a complete breakdown at the end of 2016, and I didn't know what to do. There was only 2016 was the only year in my life. 2017 wasn't that much better, Lurch. I told you that story over the weekend. 2016 was the first, I won't want to say the first because I haven't really thought about it since. 2016 was the first time in my life that I thought, I don't want to make it out of this year. 5 people with mental health issues. Yeah. I think the number is a lot higher. And particularly in our career field, I think it's a lot higher than the 1 in 3 that they claim. Jen, I've been told that different people find my voice soothing to listen to. So I try not to go up and down too much with it because I want to keep a nice even level. I know sometimes that's a little harder to judge. Well, we have 2 cats, and one of them does like to sit close to me when I'm talking. One of our cats likes to lie in the middle of the floor when my wife and I are talking, but I think that's because she thinks we're talking to her. Okay, so your other one is sleeping. Well, cats do tend to sleep 20 hours a day, so that's not surprising. Okay, so I came around there, so I did the 6, 4. I am trying to kind of make progress while we talk about, but I don't really. Probably figuring. My dog hasn't quite been isn't quite far enough along in his training for us to progress to that point. Where right now we're just trying to get him to complete his public access test, and then we're going to move into that specific stuff. But yeah, one of the things he's going to be trained to do, and I had to get a big dog. He's 66 pounds and he's 11 months old. I had to get a big dog because I need him to be able to get up in the bed and pin me down. Because when it happens, my wife has told me, when it happens, I start to get really violently shaky in my sleep. And sometimes she can bring me out of it by putting her hand on me, but other times it doesn't work. So having that much weight suddenly jumping on me and licking my face probably would do it. At least that's the theory behind it. So, but he's already shown signs of being able to figure out when I'm off. Sometimes it's just the first time he showed that he was aware that something was different about me was when I sneezed when I was having a conversation with somebody in a public place. I sneezed and it was out of nowhere, and he jumped up from where he was sleeping underneath my chair and put his paws on my leg and tried to put his face up near mine and started licking my face like, "Are you okay?" And it was the trainer I was talking to, and she said, "That's good. Encourage that." And he has also shown signs that he can tell when I've been at the computer for too long and I need to go to the bathroom, because he'll start getting in between and moving me around so that I can't actually stay still, and then I become aware of it. So he's on the way towards being aware of some of those things. Deep pressure therapy, yes, that is something where you put a heavy weight on them. I'm not as familiar with that one, but I have heard of it, and that's the gist of it. And that's kind of the idea behind having a service dog that can do that. Having a dog that big creates its own problems. But yes. But he also is very good at blocking people from getting near me for 2 reasons. One is size, and 2, people don't realize by looking at him that he is absolutely determined that you are his best friend. And all he wants to do is lick, 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 and puppy gnaw on you, and lick, 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 and just say hi and be petted. That's all he wants to do. People look at him and their first reaction is, "Holy crap, big dog. Holy crap, big dog." And they panic. They terror. So one of 2 ways. Either they're scared of him, or he's so big, people tend to just stay with him. Now, there's still those people who just are bound and determined that my dog is there for their pleasure, and they will just corner me and try to pet him. I've had to practically run them over with carts to get them out of the way. Special heavy blankets, that does actually help. My wife when she first goes to sleep, she can't go to sleep unless she has a certain amount of weight from the blankets on her. Now, after about 4 hours in bed, she starts to overheat and she'll kick those blankets off. But initially going to sleep, she likes that extra weight. So we're here in the middle of the summer. It's 96 degrees, 97, 100 degrees outside. And we set the AC low at night, raise it during the day, low at night, and we sleep under a sheet, a down feather comforter, another blanket, and then a double crocheted Afghan that's big enough to go across a king size bed and reach down to the floor on both sides, and long enough that it reaches up where our heads are and will go down to the floor at our feet. And it is heavy, and we both need that. It's something to look into, especially Lurch if you do have issues with staying still in your sleep because of night terrors or other reasons. I frankly can't stay still in my sleep because my time in the Air Force. It's not as bad as my dad's back, whose back was completely destroyed by a G suit during takeoff. But all of my back problems stem from the way I was forced to do sit-ups during training, and then all of the years tied to a computer, having to sit there for 12, 13 hours. Use it with a cooling device, yes, because you'll get... I frankly love the room being cold, but being wrapped under blankets, but I grew up in Alaska, so that might be some of it. Yeah, Zakilla, as I just said, my wife loves it. And frankly, I've kind of done it my entire life, because when I was growing up, I remember I always had multiple Afghans that I'd put on me when I went to sleep, and I'd kick them off as the night went on. But when I went to sleep, I had a lot of blankets on me to help me feel safe. And I think I'd have to go back and ask my parents, but I think that got more pronounced after my first traumatic experience when I was almost 11 years old. Yeah, night sweats are a problem. They are a problem. Malden, actually, the places I grew up, I spent 6.5 years in Alaska, from 3.5 to 10, and then I moved to Germany for 5 years. So I'm very familiar with that environment. And I just actually moved back 2 years ago from living in Germany for a little over 4 years. So very familiar. Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss, Tequila, with them sometimes, and it's actually different for each person because their body will generate heat differently. So you kind of have to test them out and see which one works best. We like the multiple layers because we can peel one off. So, yep. See, my wife starts off like she's a refrigerator going to sleep, and then she turns into an oven. And you are very correct about that. The side effect. I know in my dreams have been particularly rough because I will wake up and just feel like I'm covered in my own filth because I sweated all night. I sweated so badly all night that I feel like all of me is just peeled away, and it's disgusting. And then you think, okay, I need to take a shower. You start getting into your day, and the things just mount and mount and mount, and you just fall behind, and you just those basic things that you think you should do, or that you know you should do because they're going to take care of you, you just don't do them. I remember at one point, and Charles Mike said this on stream, so I can say he went I don't remember the exact amount of time, but he went a long time without showering. And I've been shocked at the amount of time I managed to go without actually taking a shower. And then you just feel horrible. Like I should be able to remember to take a shower. What is wrong? And you just feel so down on yourself, and it's this spiral. You just start spiraling. I don't know if I've ever made it to 3 weeks. The way I managed to get around forgetting a record, that's a funny way of putting it. The way I managed to get around this when I was alone was that I ran all the time. When I was in Germany last summer, I ran all the time. And when I come back, and I had an amazing shower. It was so amazing at that hotel. It was the hotel in Ramstein. It was so amazing. So I actually enjoyed being in the shower. So much so that I would actually take my iPad in there because it's got a special stand that I can hook on the towel rack on the other side. I could watch something while I was in there, and I'd just be lost in there because it was such a great shower. Very strong, and it was from above, so it was fit. So, but I don't think I've made it that long. I'd say Cellist Mike probably made it longer. We've actually made a point. One of the things that we did was we tried to turn our room into a place where it's about resting and bonding. So there's the only devices that are back there are the ones that we take with us to go to bed, set alarms and stuff like that. I will also read on my iPad comic books while I'm rubbing my wife's neck while she falls asleep. Other than that, no technology, no TVs in our rooms, no games, no computers, nothing. And the bathroom, we've done our absolute best to turn it into as spa-like an experience as possible. So when you're in there, even if you're only in there for 5 minutes, it feels like you're not there. You're not, when you're in the shower, you can feel like you're just not there. You can imagine you're someplace else. And then, obviously, you get out of the shower and everything comes crashing back. But that's one of the things we tried to do to help, just to escape from things. Knowing that, though, I still forget. 3232. Oh, and for those wondering with the ship that you see me building, right above me is the sphere layout, and I'm just counting. That's how I'm going around. Gotten help, but I believe that okay. Several members of my family and my wife's family are dyslexic. That's an interesting struggle, watching my sister, the struggle that she had just doing simple things. It was so frustrating for her. I didn't get it at the time, but now I really understand and realize how hard it was for her to do what she was doing. We were homeschooled, so I really got to see how she struggled with that. The issue that I had with school, Garvidal, my sister she was falling behind. I was bored out of my mind, and so I was constantly getting into trouble. So that's why I eventually became homeschooled. And yeah, I was a bit... when I really started to pay attention to the social side of school was when I moved to Germany. And it was so different there that that social ostracization is probably what drove me to be as bad as I was, because it was not a good transition for me. I'm glad he did. I'm always glad when the game mechanic comes over. He's a great streamer. If you guys like Civ, he's a great streamer. And like I said, he came over and and we did an interview with him. It was a good interview. And I think actually, give me a second. Maybe it's, there it is. That is a direct link to that video. It's a good listen to while you're doing something else. Yeah, the frustration. She just wanted to be able to do her work, and listening to my mom try to help her understand. I don't remember where they got the idea, but eventually what worked for her was they took a red gel, like a light gel, or maybe it was an orange one, and they put it on the paper, and suddenly she could read. And I just remember the difference in the noise level in the house once that frustration was gone from her and she could actually read it and understand it. If this tells you anything, when I went to college after 6 years of being homeschooled next to my sister, when I went to college, I didn't actually feel comfortable in a room where yelling wasn't going on. I'd gotten so used to dodging yelling by moving around the house that staying in a desk and not constantly hearing that noise made being in class very difficult for me. And I eventually had to cross-stitch to keep myself focused to get through college. I had a teacher actually, he thought I was cross-stitching the answers in. I showed him the cross-stitch. If you can find the answers, please tell me. I'll pay you because I don't see them. So 3 2 3 2 2 2. Okay, so 3 2 3 2 2 2. So yeah, I think my dad was dyslexic. My sister was. My wife's older brother was, and I think one of her grandparents was. So, and the extra life thing that you see down there, autism also runs, and being on the upper end of that scale or fully end of that scale also runs in our family. And this hospital that saved my niece's life also got my nephew a diagnosis for autism that has completely it made the Air Force provide care that they weren't providing. If there's noise, I cannot focus at all. Yeah. Do you want the link for the YouTube video? Yep. There you go. Gladly share that. It was a great time listening to him. You will not. That's a great something to listen to. Actually, after he did the stream, the very next time he streamed, I went over to hang out in his channel just to say thanks and be, supportive of his community. And his community was sitting there listening to the stream while watching his next stream, and it was really good. Like I said, most of the experience I have with it is from the military side. Hearing it from a civilian point of view for me, it was very eye-opening. But yeah, Garvidal, the noise. I have always had a hard time ignoring sensory input that was overwhelming, and that just got worse when I went through my experience. There was no way I couldn't ignore it anymore. It just completely went away. Before it used to just be, like, why do people have to be eating noisy vegetables near me while I'm working? Now it's, if your volume level is above a certain level, too high above a certain level, I'm done. Talking does make it better. Talking does make it better, and that's why I talk here. I can tell you that in combination with getting Groot and training him and making the decision that I was going to just do some things that I could succeed at, and then talking here, I think it's been huge for my recovery. It's been, I mean, everyone's told me that they can see it. I don't think my wife would have been as comfortable going to work. And Imperial Jedi he's another great streamer. I love listening to him. He's a voice I could listen to all day. And I just completely lost my train of thought. It's just gone. And this is something that would never happen to me. Oh yeah, that. Yes, Malden, the noise. And it was a catch-22 because I was glad they were eating healthy. I was very glad they were eating healthy. But oh my word, if I had to listen to another person eat carrots at work in a quiet room where we're supposed to be, we're supposed to be using our ears. Most of all, our ears. Listening to someone crunching on noisy vegetables right behind you when you're trying to use your ears for your job. Oh, that was games are a great way, Garvidal. You are not wrong. Games are a great way to socialize because, and this is one thing I like about going to, and it was a long time until I discovered the word Malden. I love going to cons because, now obviously it's a little different now, but when you go into a con, when you walk into a room, to think about walking into a party, like a work party. Everyone's there in their casual clothes. We're used to seeing, with the parties that I would go to, we're used to seeing people with their name, their last name pinned on their chest. So we would always know who everybody was. So suddenly they were all in different clothing, and it was, they were being as self-expressive as they could in the environment. But you walked into a room and it was like staring at a group of people that you'd never met, and you didn't know anything about them. Now contrast that with walking into a room full of cosplayers who are all in cosplay or wearing t-shirts that are related, something that's connected. You walk in the room and you look around and you know something about every single person in the room. Fandom. Not just that they're fans of something, but what they're fans of. And then you can find the people who have similar fandoms and connect with them. Or maybe you just, the cosplay, just the sheer quality of the cosplay has you fascinated. There's always something to talk about. And I think that games do the exact same thing. Being able to talk about games, the game experience, all that is, that's part of the reason why I think Extra Life is so successful. And that's why I've been doing it for so long. I mean, you see all the medals right there. I've been doing it for 8 years, and it's one of the only ways I can actually still be kind of volunteering and not feel exposed. So let me catch up on here. I'm making you angry just talking about all those things. Yep. Well, let's see. That used to be the problem. Was just that the chewing and the stuff like that. Now, if the volume level, the ambient volume level around elevates too much, I get overwhelmed. And yes, Garvidal, that's true. If you are a primary auditory learner, a primary auditory learner, then what are you gonna do? I actually had a classmate once when we were doing a class, and we had computers, and the keyboard that we had was so noisy that the classmate in front of me had to actually ask me to adapt my typing because she couldn't focus because of the sound of the keyboard. So what did I do? I went home and got my own quiet keyboard and brought it in every day so I wouldn't distract her. Yeah, it's loud volumes sudden volumes can still do that. Kroger has this horrible thing. The Krogers around us, at least, they have this horrible thing that they do where they do this hourly refresh, and it's so loud. They just blast this music on the radio that's so much loud, and their PA system is already so much louder, and so they blast this music at a level that's way above what they already were at, and it goes on I actually have to plan when I'm going to be there. You talk about adjusting your lifestyle. I have to plan when I'm going to go. If I have to go to Kroger, I have to plan when I'm going to be there just so I can not be there on the hour. So I can avoid that noise. This is so loud. And when I go to theaters now, Jen, I have to wear a special set of earplugs that allow me to hear but deaden the really loud louds. I discovered them when I was attending DragonCon. I could go and stand in front of speakers that were blasting music, steadily loud music, like house and stuff like that. With those things in, sounded just normal level. So I did Disney World after some special preparation with my therapist after I got back last year. Right about the time, right before I'd had the relapse, and that was I had those earplugs in the entire time. Now when we do church, I can't actually. I know I know they're judging me. I go in and I sit down while they're doing the worship part, and I keep my headphones in, and I know because I see them looking at me, wondering why is he. It's so rude to sit there and have his headphones on, even though I have a service dog, so they could think, oh, maybe he's deaf and it's something, but they're actual earbuds with wires like this. So I know, but all I'm trying to do is block the noise. Like the noise level is so high that I'm just trying to deaden the noise. 2 1 2 1 1 2. Let's see, 1 2 1 2 1 1 2. Yep. All right. Well, it's almost 3 o'clock my time. Charles Mike is about to start his interview, so hopefully that's gonna go well. I will give you guys an update as soon as I know. 5 to 8 people in a group room. If it gets way more than that, then I get anxious and can't be there. The group that I hang out with on Sundays, it's about 12 people, but we're spread out amongst 3 tables. So really, it's just about. Actually, I think it's more than 12. I think it's closer to 20 when they're all there. But we're spread out, no more than 6 or 8 to a table, and that group I'm really comfortable talking to. It's the larger group where I start having a hard time. I actually honestly have a hard time projecting my voice now because I don't want people looking at me. And that, Jen, you were talking about what that class did for you. One of the things this class did for me was once they realized that the problem was I didn't like people looking at me when I would start to share something, they all stopped looking at me. They would listen, but they would stop looking. They would all be quiet. They would all drop their voices to quiet so that they could all hear me, and they made a point of not looking at me so that I could feel comfortable and safe enough to actually say what I needed to say. That was huge in terms of getting me, being willing to stay committed to that group. That was huge. Because otherwise I probably would have stopped going to that. Outside of the fact that it was a benefit. It was a good training for the dog. I'm glad you came also, Garvidal. I saw you followed earlier, so hopefully I'll see you next time. We do this every Monday at noon Central, so 1 Eastern. I think I'm in the same time zone as the GM. So sometimes I'm often overlapping with him. But yeah, we do this. We find different things to talk about. Last week we did a values drill, and before that we talked about defining your story, redefining your story. So we try to find new ways to talk, and sometimes we just do a check-in, and we try to make sure everybody feels safe so that they can talk. And Jen, as Jen said earlier, she shared some things with us last week that she wasn't sure that she'd be able to, but I'm glad she was there, that she felt safe enough to talk about them. Yes, 5 p.m. GMT. And we're 5 hours behind that. We're 7 hours behind Germany. So, yeah, it's almost 3 o'clock. I'm gonna wrap this stream up in 5 minutes. Yeah, you should. I tried to start posting it with that in there too, but it was just getting too long. So I just focused on the time zones, the 2 time zones that generally are used in the U.S. Eastern and Central. I mean, when you're referencing things, when you see things on TV, they say 10, 9 Central. So, yes, that schedule, the Streamlabs schedule down there, I like that. Yes, it should be. This should take you to the PTSD playlist that has it in there. I think that's actually the VOD. There's another video attached to that playlist. I think there's at least one more, and that one is the interview we did with my therapist about accelerated resolution therapy. So, yeah, that's about, I want to say, and that specific link is queued right to when he joins, because we were on a little bit before he joined. I think it's 10, 1, 2, 4, 5. Yep, 10. But yeah, it's good. I hope if you're in his community, I think you will enjoy listening to it. It definitely gives you another side to his character, who he is as a person. So when you're listening to him on stream, some of those things, it really kind of opens it up. To hear that, and I think it's also important to hear people that are voices in a community talk about the things, because let's face it, Game Mechanic has a much larger audience than I have. So hearing him with this community, this much larger community, has talk about his struggles with some of the same things that I struggle with, that's good, because it's just furthering the conversation, which I think too often we try to avoid having. So I hope to see you again next week, Malden. Thanks everybody for joining in. I'm going to go ahead and switch to Talk 1. I will be back Wednesday. The plan is Wednesday evening at 6:30. I'll be back. That's my just have fun one. We talk about Extra Life, which you can see the thing down there, and if the bot actually just posted it, you go to that link, you can find out more. It is my thoughts. It is my experiences. I like to. My idea is I talk, you listen, and you start talking, because that's the big one for me. None at all. None at all. Is it none at all? Do I say it none at all? Or no natal? That's either one of those sounds good. No natal or none at all. Thanks for that follow. Enjoy some cheese. That's actually currency in the bot, but I need to turn those things on so you guys can have fun with that stuff, but not on today's stream. First one, none at all. Cool. I like both of them. They're both cool. So none at all. That's good. But yes, Wednesday night, 18:30 CST. So that would be 11:30 GMT. Malden, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm just actually getting ready to check my Stream Puppy, because the app that I use to manage all the things, of the scene changes and stuff, is all managed by this app that I use called Stream Puppy. So I was just getting ready to look over at who's gone, who's live, and it's nice because it reorganizes them by who's on the most recent, so you're less likely to join a stream that's leaving. Yep, I know who we're going to raid. Oh no, it's fine, it's fine. So I'm going to raid the channel that I get to stream to on Fridays, because they're streaming right now. So we're going to go over and we're going to head over to Extra Life, and we're going to raid them and have some fun with them. So I encourage you all to come with and say hi. Just encourage and listen to his story. Ask him about his story. Ask him about what he's doing with the fundraising he's doing, and learn more about the event. So I will be back Wednesday 6:30 and on Friday to that channel that we're about to go raid at the same time as today, 12 Central. Jen, I hope to see you there. And thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.